This is where the magic doesn't happen.
That's great. I know I should be upset or something, but I really like that.
I had a manager, and I'm not going to say his name, but probably by doing the impression, you'll know.
I have one guess.
We would go into a meeting, and he had like stock lines to like warm our meeting up. So we'd be at like Warner Brothers, and he'd literally walk into the big conference room, and he'd always do the same thing. He'd walk up to the table and go, "The blood isn't dry on this table yet."
Oh, God. Why can't we say who that is? That's super funny. I only said one thing to that man. That man whom you speak of.
Yes.
I saw him once. It was when I was performing at the Boston.
I also only said one word.
That's funny, because I know a good Dane Cook, that man story. Can we just say it's Barry Kathner? Yeah, we're not being disparaging.
We had enough good that we can mention the bad.
Oh, yes. Sure. Okay. I just remember somebody else's client of Barry's said to him, he was leaving him, and he said, why? And he said, because if like I was having a meltdown before I went on Letterman or something, and Dane lost his luggage in Tacoma, you'd be on the first plane to Tacoma.
So you've had Jay Moore on the show.
No, did he say, was he a bitter Betty?
Oh, God, for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is one of these
yes.
my bad boys?
Let me tell you, this one has agave. They didn't have honey. This is agave and this is none.
Whatever's plain.
This is plain. Agave is a sweetener made from cactus, but you wanted honey.
That'll work.
Is that for your voice? That was my first thought.
I've been doing this voiceover for the last couple of weeks.
Is that right?
And it's been pretty strenuous. Not only because I'm doing like action voice sequences, but I'm also doing. I was doing the shows at night, and then the weather started went hot, cold, hot.
Sure.
But mostly just from the intense vocal exercises that I'm doing.
You're talking a lot. This is something that interests me because stand-up isn't singing. Right?
Are we doing this? We're doing this? Yeah. Oh, I love it. I see what you did there, you son of a bitch. We're just doing this.
This is where the magic doesn't happen. That'll be on it, too.
Oh, great. You started to you were recording the moment that I pulled in.
I really like the opening moment.
That's great. He's got me calling my doctor before and just checking up on her.
I one time heard Dave Chappelle on the phone with an airline, which I thought was really funny because he was like, Chappelle? C-H-A. I'm like, it was at the height of Chappelle's show. I wanted him to just go, Chappelle show!
One-way ticket, Africa.
That was the flight. That was the flight he was booking. Hello, here, Zimbabwe. I gotta get out of here.
I don't know, man.
I'm out. Neil, stay here. I love giving Neil. It'll be fine. You can put these on if you want.
I can?
Well, you've been in a voiceover booth. You know. I mean, you might
but
not.
I can hear you.
Might not want them. I like hearing. I like being able to hear the show as it's happening.
Oh, really? Is there something else that's going to be? There's going to be like password type clues happening.
I'll ask you questions, and there's a heartbeat that plays. It's very intense.
When we talk about my childhood, I hear a baby start to cry and stuff.
I have sound bites from Arlington, Massachusetts.
Oh, you do?
You know your pictures up at the Arlington House of Pizza?
Is that right?
I find that to be your most impressive credit.
Yeah, especially since I never hung out there. I didn't feel welcome.
I didn't feel welcome there either.
Sons of bitches.
It's up. It might
it's
not
always
be
the places that you felt like you had no no love, no respect, rapport with. That always wants to be like, he used to come in here, burnt the roof of his mouth on one of our cheesy steaks.
I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm looking forward to that. Fuck them. They didn't give me shit. But I actually remember going in there to pick up a pizza, and I literally had a moment. There's something about that. It's hometown recognition. Look, we got a lot of irons in the fire. We got Barry. I was going to tell you about loquat syrup. And now we're talking about Arlington House of Pizza.
Do I also get a notepad to jot down copious notes?
Would you like to?
No.
You could have a sheet of my old notes and guess who the guest was.
It'd be great the whole time. Everything. We're just not really listening. We're just writing down. And we always look suspect as we're writing. Like,
And that's where we go the teet, toot, teet, toot, teet, and the heartbeat. I legitimately saw that photo of you up at Arlington House of Pizza.
And may I ask, what is the photo? Because that always fascinates me, because it's usually
like an
terrible headshot.
I believe it's you in the Arlington House of Pizza. I
don't believe
it's a candid.
it. It's me in another pizza place.
It's you acting in a movie eating pizza.
You look close. It's not their style of pizza. It's a Greek pizza. It's a Chicago style.
It's actually
pizza.
near that Greek place. I might be wrong. It might be Nick's place.
Okay, wait a second. Because there was a few. I managed a couple of pizza places back.
Nick's place?
No, but but they changed names, so I don't know. Maybe something that was Nick's place.
No, Nick's
later.
place was Nick's place when I was a boy.
I don't know. I just remember I worked at a few different pizza places, but never. But I never really hung because that's where everybody went after school.
Yes,
and I felt an enormous amount of anxiety.
Yeah.
As I thought of approaching that place because
Me too.
I didn't feel that. I was welcome in that world
ours
at that
was
time.
Cafe A in Harvard Square. Do you remember that? Remember where Newbury Comics is in the garage.
Yeah, you feel close near comic books.
I need to be near them. You know, that's actually false. I do like that world, but this is just a little bit of a. I don't currently read comic books, Dane.
That's sad.
That I don't? Oh,
Yeah.
Do you enjoy them?
From time to time, I still like to, but
I just don't want to be put in the Nerdist box where all the comic books are.
yeah, I would not put you there. I would definitely
Because when I did Jay Moore's podcast, he kept giving me shit. Speaking
Did he?
of Jay Moore, for being the Nerdist.
is that?
That's what this network is.
Yeah. See, I don't think of you that way at all, but
Thank you.
we'll talk about that when I have you on my podcast.
You have a podcast?
No, but I should at this
Well,
point.
yeah, we need to get awareness out there.
Behind the times. I still want to know what horrible. Oh, so it was a picture of me in the pizza place.
I believe it was,
Okay.
and I think it was near that Greek place it's on Mass Ave.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the point was I literally saw it, and you've done a lot of amazing things, but I saw that pizza photo, and I was like, Jesus, someday.
Not the cover of Mad Magazine.
No, nope. Were you on the cover of Mad Magazine?
Yes.
Who drew you?
I'm not sure.
Was it one? It must have been. I guess there's only the one guy that I would even recognize the name, and I think he's dead.
It certainly looked, the part of all those covers.
Did they razz you?
Of course they. Well, I never read the
What
inside.
was it called? Dane Cook.
No. They had it had me on the cover, character doing the Sufi, and then Alfred E. Newman doing the Sufi, and it's in his nostril.
No, that is
It's
huge.
just him and I. Yeah. There it is, right there. Look.
Holy shit!
That's
And it's a flattering drawing.
Yeah, I was more of a cracked guy myself.
No, you weren't.
Actually,
were
I
you?
did. I collected Mad and Cracked, and I was a big Spy versus Spy fan.
Well, that's Mad. Now we're back to Mad.
But I actually just wrote. Mad reached out and had a bunch of people that were on their cover and reached out to a bunch of us and said, "Would you write about your experience being on the cover of Mad?" So they sent me a bunch of excerpts. J.J. Abrams wrote, Sylvester Stallone, all these people. So I wrote about my story about Mad Magazine, and basically what I said in it was I was so flattered to the point of it seemed like a goof to me. I was like, no, this is a fake mock-up. I'm not really here.
Yeah.
But I knew to not read what was inside because they are so evil.
There was a piece on you as well. It wasn't just
piece.
the cover.
Yes, and I don't know what that piece is. I refuse to read that piece.
Dane Cook.
Because
it's got to be something. It's a wordplay.
That's good. Yeah, it's probably that.
Good. That's good.
That it's not even more. It's not even that. It's not even so much the verbal content. I again, kind of just coming from such an insecure. I had a lot of self-image problems when I was a kid.
Yes.
I had a lot of problems with just almost a dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And I knew at that
would
time,
bring it all back.
because they make you look horrendous.
Of
If you
course.
have one pimple, now you have 40. If you have a slightly large nose, now you've got a honker.
Yes.
And
I have moles and a big head. They actually did draw me in a Mad Magazine once.
They did.
Yeah.
And you
but
looked
it
at
wasn't. I don't want you to think that I'm going for tit for tat here. You're
not?
because it was just they just.
What do you mean? We're in an attic of a comic book store, Pete.
I will go tit for tat with you, sir. You were on the cover, and me and Kumail and a bunch of other local guys, without our names, were drawn in a thing about stand-up comics. It was very inside.
Okay.
No one would have known it was us.
But it was cool because you guys were you could identify yourself.
We knew
right
it
away.
was us, and they drew me like Renee Zellweger, which is kind of what I look like.
That works.
Tell me about the body dysmorphia. You know this show. This is the show where we get into it.
And again, I wouldn't say full-on dysmorphia. My understanding of that is like the levels of kind of torture one can do to themselves and the amount of hours that people seem to, just pick themselves apart. And I guess it's brutal. But for me, I suffered from horrible acne. I was...
From what age?
Junior high school.
7th grade, right?
Yeah, about 7th or 8th grade.
I'm just going with the other...
And it was like... It was like gang. It was like the worst, I remember waking up one morning and feeling like one of those special effects guys.
Industrial Light and Magic had been there.
They put some kind of alien being, and
they're really good.
It was like literally in one night. I just remember waking up and feeling like, wow, this is a problem. And then it just got worse and worse. And so by the end of my junior high school experience, I was like a hermit. I was like a total recluse. I wouldn't have gone to school if I didn't have to go to school. I hated it.
Oh,
I hated being out in public. And that was the beginning of, I was also a really shy kid and all the stuff that kind of goes with what you probably hear about a lot of comics earlier on. We just have a lot of self problems.
I still do.
Yeah.
How do you fare? We'll get back to high school, but how do you fare with like Hollywood parties and stuff? Because those are anxious for me as well.
Just host them. Make sure they're yours. Then people you like and enjoy are there. And I don't do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I like to hit a couple of the ones where that a lot of people that you admire are going to be, so that you can look as cool as you can, but you can bring a friend to be like, Harrison Ford is right over there.
Those are fun.
Yeah,
those are fun.
Yeah, those are the only ones you should really be truly
You know
attending.
what freaks me out is the ones
the word schmooze is like...
that came up on the show recently, where a guy came up to me at the Improv, where I met you, where I see you most of the time. Someone came up to me and I was like, "What are you up to? Are you on the show?" Just making small talk. I wasn't sniffing and being like, "Why are you here? Are you performing?" I don't do that. I'm just like, "What's up, man?" I had nothing to say to him, and he was like, "I'm just networking." And I was like, don't say that.
Yeah,
please stop saying.
Yeah, that's really horrible. Nobody should be using that jargon.
No,
I'm networking.
No, I'm schmoozing.
It's a schmooze fest.
I'm hosting a schmooze fest. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
But when I do go to those things, I still, that stuff never. Larry Moss is a really incredible acting instructor out here, and
what's his name? Moss?
Larry Moss. Yeah, I mean, if you can read anything by Larry Moss, and he has little seminars, you can hire him one-on-one, all that stuff, and he's like one of the guys. He's like one of the few people that the word on the street is his nickname is like the Oscar guy. Like people call him when they need when they really want to get into the deep symbolism and the way back of character and things of that nature. So my former manager, Barry Katz, for one of my birthdays, gave me the gift of a 2-hour session with Larry Moss.
You have to grind it out with this rigorous teacher. Happy birthday. Don't come out till you're excellent.
I was, looking back, it's like, well, Employee of the Month had just come out. That's what I call hair acting.
That was mostly hair?
No, it was fun. That was for the nieces and nephews.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, sure.
But so I go to Larry Moss, and I'm, here I am thinking, all right, I'm going to... I'm gonna. It's so weird seeing people walk around.
It's
like
ghostish.
Right. There's like people walking past the booth that we're in, but they've got like strange satchels with them, and that man was
there's
just
an office adjacent to us. Sometimes there's children.
Nobody should be carrying. That man was just carrying a bag, like in the way that like after someone robs a bank, they have to hide.
The way that you don't want to.
Was that good radio right there, or did I describe that to the best of my ability so that your listeners could see it?
There was a strange man who moves with an ease that I don't like.
Was he real, or was that like an apparition?
That's what I'm saying. Have you ever done William and Mary? The college?
Yes.
Well, it's right by Colonial Williamsburg. So you see all the women in like Puritan garb, and I remember that was my opener. I was like, I want to be like, does everyone else see it? Does everyone else see these women? Because she's like looking at a Guns and Ammo in the same Barnes and Noble as me.
She disappears in a whirlwind of foliage.
And then I just rake it up crying. She was here.
Then there's a picture of her on the wall in like a...
Perfect.
It's like, passed away. It's like The Shining.
Yeah. We push in, I'm in the photo as well. I still don't get The Shining. What? Was he dead? I don't understand. Which is a big...
Oh, it's Kubrick, man. That's the whole thing. So what do you take from it?
See, that's
Which brings me back to Larry Moss. Watch this.
Ooh.
Look at that. It was like a Growing Pains episode just then.
And what we did was we followed the weird man in the satchel, and we came back to goodness.
So I go to see Larry Moss, and here I am thinking, okay, I'm just going to sit. I'm going to have this incredible talk about all things in the world of of acting, theater, all that. And sometimes like there's people that you meet in your life that like almost immediately when you are around them, you get that feeling like they have a heightened sense.
Yes, you're talking to the right guy.
Yeah, like just some people just I don't know, they're not soothsayers, but they can know you immediately and be like what's
they're
really
enlightened. They're present people that are like plugging into you quickly.
Yes. I tried not to use Star Wars references, but I am such a huge geek. But it's a Yoda.
He's a Yoda.
Yeah.
You called Steve Martin Yoda. We'll get to that.
Okay. We will. Put it in your little sketch pad.
It is.
Over
It's
there.
Right here. It's already on there. You got pre-notes.
Circle it twice. Put a little star.
I'll draw Yoda. That's respect. Nobody gets pre-notes.
We sit down. I sit with Larry Moss, and he basically is like... he has kind eyes, and he's holding a very small cane. We're in a mud hut. It's a swamp land.
Did he make you lift his car out of the swamp with your mind? I don't want to do the reverse syntax thing. It feels silly.
I want to do the voice.
We
so
all want to
right
do
now,
it,
but I will not do it.
This is the kind of place where you can. But
I'll do Luke. Everything's breathy and on the cusp of crying. But what if I have to go?
Yeah. What about the power converters?
I can't do this. I'm not meant for more. I'm a small town farm boy. I should just be sitting around doing nothing, right? Okay.
But my journey is that of Christ.
Larry says to me something, I'm not sure how much like small talk, how's the weather, but he's like, he says something to me almost immediately that gets me emotional. And I couldn't believe it. I don't know what he did, like some weird yapple-dapple, and suddenly I was immediately...
What?
...connected to this man.
We need to know what he said.
Oh,
You don't remember?
I don't remember the exact... I think it was honestly just like his tone, his... just the way he... Like, not to get too into minutia, but like... When we sat, like we're sitting and like it's that whole thing of like my belly button's this way, yours is that way.
Yeah.
We're not truly connected. That keeps us, present, and yet we can be defiant. No,
right.
Like literally immediately, it was like the way we were sitting.
Even when you do that, it works. See, this is Scientology shit. Like if we had to stare at each other the whole time.
I don't know anything about that stuff.
You're a Scientologist. Come out.
I just no. I did have to use the bathroom in there once, and I stayed for 6.5 weeks. Now listen.
Did you meet Elron?
No. But I'm a level 7. I'm fascinated by all that. It sounds like
connecting. It's true.
Okay.
These are things we block in you're saying the belly button direction point thing and all that sort of stuff.
That's what he did to me.
But it's the same thing with a bad audience when they're closing off their things or they're shrunking away from you, all that sort of stuff.
See,
We're in tune with that.
I'm fascinated. Law of attraction and all that. These are the things I like to read about. These are the things that I'm interested in that I even like to test. I remember law of attraction for a good year period. I would wake up and sometimes instead of affirmations, I would spend weeks going, "Fuck everybody." Let's see what that invites.
Did it work?
Good morning. Fuck everything.
God,
did it work? No, it's interesting because no.
Did everyone?
How much of the
fucked?
secret do people really start to believe?
Well, you're right. Does it work for
if you want to be a bad person, you will do bad things that then cause bad things to happen to you. I don't believe that just because you've thought some bad thoughts about yourself that suddenly...
That's what they think. The secret. The secret people. I remember they were like, one of my favorite, because I watched the movie. I didn't read the book. I didn't watch the book as pages flipped by. They were talking about, they were like...
you watch a book on your iPad, though.
Yeah, you could.
You can watch a book.
And virtually flip. I listen to a lot of books. Mm-hmm. But I remember they say, they go, if you were sick, remember? We were going to do this a couple days ago and you were sick, which I'm not bringing that up because I'm harboring it. I'm bringing it up. They would say you invited that in somehow.
Yes.
Some sort of illness.
Right.
which is bunkered batonkers.
Well, I mean, in flu season, has everybody who got the flu saying like, you know, I'm open to that.
Yeah,
I'd like a dalliance with the.
Right.
No, I don't believe in that.
A dalliance?
A dalliance with the flu? Can you have a Is dalliance only sexual?
I don't know what
I'm a verbologist, and I don't even know the definition of
verbologist.
Yes.
Neologist.
I love words.
You are a neologist.
I just want to. In fact, I have a blanket, and it's just words, and I cover myself in this.
Is that true? I believe that's true.
Do you really think I sleep under a blanket?
And your pillows are platinum records. This is how I picture your house.
Well, that is true.
Every time I go to Comedy Central and meet with Ian Stearns, it's all you on the wall, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't.
They put those up when you come in. Guarantee it. They're not there when I get there.
When I'm up there, it has my album, and it says 37 sold, and it's a little ticker. Okay, stay on your
Moss.
weird new agey. So you're connecting.
Larry Moss, and he says to me, because this is then going to go back to like this whole thing of my youth and you know, having all these kind of like you know, introspective. And he says to me, he goes,
he connects first.
He connects first, and so we're just kind of throwing back like back and forth this thing of like you know, yeah, things that have been pretty rough right now. Like we're 5 minutes in, and we're already like in a pretty hardcore, serious conversation about like how are you? When somebody says, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh, what's up? How are you?" He was like, "How are you?" It was that kind of thing, and I
like this guy.
And so it's back and forth for several minutes, and then he just said something that was just prolific and made me immediately kind of go back to some issues that I was having. And this is also pre-therapy. I went into therapy for the first time in my life after this Larry
because of Larry Moss.
I would say it was definitely a bit of a jolt.
Yeah,
because I liked how I felt.
And you saw what one person could do listening to you.
I did. I realized through this thing that he said, and what then followed was like I hadn't released. There were some things that I had not released. I was very like, one hand was a fist. I was going to fight my way through this Holly weird and everything, and then the other hand was opened, and I needed support, and yet I was not willing to reach out myself for it. So truly, it was like this.
So this is what an acting man told you?
So no. He says to me, he says, whatever the whole of your youth is, there's a hole from your youth.
H-O.
And he says, you will, paraphrasing, of course, but he says you'll never fill it. You'll never fill it. So stop trying to fill it, and know what it means. Know it's yours. Own it and understand it.
Right.
And there was a lot more to it, but just that that imagery. I'm a very kind of visual guy. I realized that there were some things that happened to me when I was around that age that defined my persona, my attitude, and how I treated myself in my quiet times and who I wanted to be, and then who outwardly I was trying to be. And and then that that kind of spirals into our careers, and next thing you know, you're like, who am I on stage? Who am I off stage?
Right.
And so there was a long time where it was kind of murky.
Yes.
And through this conversation and realizing it was like, oh, okay, wait a second. Much like a comedian going up and saying, these are the things about me that I can take the piss out of myself on and be self-deprecating, and you can't tease me anymore,
right?
Because I own it.
Yeah.
We do that on a comic level, yet we can still hurt. Because we make fun of ourselves doesn't mean we necessarily are owning it in a positive way. So I needed to do the same thing that we do on stage, which was like, I could be like, yeah, I had zits, and yeah, I had this issue or that, and I needed to do the same thing off stage and to be able to look at moments that are crucial in my life and be like, hey, you know what? I'm okay because of that, and I'm not going to try to not be that anymore.
Right.
To women that I would meet, or to friends that I would try to be closer with.
You mean, yeah.
No, not take it out, just not share it.
Oh,
trying to be like, no, I'm a success now. I've had it. That means nothing.
Yeah.
That means absolutely zero. You are nothing until you understand where it was that you kind of started from.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of a great journey for me over the last several years.
That's fascinating, because I always think that comedians have a benefit that it's our job to mine ourselves deeply. It's that self-realized.
Is that what you call masturbation? Yes. How often do you mine yourself there?
Deeply? I don't have time to go deep every time. Sometimes it's just the surface. I've been eating bee pollen, and it's making me so horny. Have you ever eaten bee pollen?
No, I haven't.
Jesus Christ. That's all I got for you.
Okay.
the Mormon Jesus. I considered humping my mattress this morning. When's the last time you humped a mattress? I was like 9, 10. It seemed like a good idea. When? This morning. This morning. I'm 33.
What does the bee pollen do exactly?
First of all, I want to stay where you are, and I wrote down 3 thoughts, so we're not going to lose that. Because I love
already
that.
Your notebook looks like something out of the movie Seven.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I was on the subway today and threw up on somebody that asked me how I was doing.
Killer's Manifesto.
I have a bit about that where I go, the craziest thing about serial killers is the journaling. Who has the time?
Most comics.
We do.
Yes.
So anyway, bee pollen is filled with lots of B vitamins and stuff. It increases your sperm count. This isn't necessarily why I was taking it, but I am interested in the libido's tie to creativity. Quentin Tarantino said that he thinks that his writing ability, writing scripts and stuff, is directly tied to, and this is what he did. He made a fist.
Yes.
And he hit it like that, meaning like a hard dick.
I would think it was tied to watching Japanese action movies and shooting them shot by
going
shot.
deep. While going deep.
He admits that, by the way.
I know he does. But there's something about that. But anyway, so I took a little bit of bee pollen. It also goes right through you, so be careful if you take it.
I'm
talking about the
not
shits.
going to do that.
Don't do that.
All right.
I'd like you to do it.
Oh,
I'd like you to get a text in a few days that says, I just fucked my couch and shit my pants.
No, you know what I'm going to send you? I'm going to send you a Vine. You know Vine?
Yeah,
And the first 5 seconds are just going to be bee pollen and like up close, and then the last shot is going to be a turlet.
Vine must be hoping you get into Vine.
I think I've tried Vine. I'm fascinated with that stuff, so I've tried it. I have done that.
Yeah.
But it's quirky.
It might be the one thing
it's
that
a goof.
It made me feel like a anyway. Let's say on this is the idea. Okay, I want you, first of all, it's our jobs to learn about ourselves.
Okay,
who are you in general meetings?
First of all, if I'm not getting paid, it's not a job.
What do you mean? But you are getting paid. The more you expose of yourself, of your Dane Cookiness on stage, the more you'll make.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
I'm saying on stage.
Okay,
and you're saying off stage.
I misunderstood the question, Your Honor.
Off stage, you said you needed to do the same thing. Delving in.
Sure.
Going in and learning about yourself and validating these sorts of things.
Yes, because then it's like using basic jargon. Then you're present. If you're present, you can be in moments and roll with anything. You're not.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're not living in the past.
Patrice O'Neal. I probably quoted this way too much. Had a great quote when I was sitting with him at the back of Nick's Comedy Stop, 1992-3, and I had a bad set, but I was definitely I didn't even know what I was doing up there, and he just looked at me and in that Patrice way, he just said, man, you can't fuck with the truth. Just be the truth, Dane. And it was like, and he went on, just, kind of like berating me and probably picking me apart to the point of, you want to jump off the Tobin Bridge.
Yeah.
But it was another moment that now, when I look back at pivotal advice kind of moments, that also set me to like, all right, you have to stay present and all those things.
Exactly. Well, people are drawn to the truth. That's one of my favorite Jesus things is people were attracted to Jesus. I always think about Christians.
He was a hack, though. And let me explain that.
A lot of his teachings were hack at that point. It's true, actually. One of the few things that he said that no one else said was love your enemy. A lot of people said love your neighbor, but he was the first to kind of pioneer the idea of loving your enemy.
Oh, see, he made it rolled off the tongue. Yeah. He was a good comic.
He knew how to punch it up.
He really
knew
did.
how to punch it up. He's a hilarious.
Less real estate. It's all about that Seinfeld haiku method.
Keep it tight. Oh, God. I just watched Seinfeld on Letterman, and it really broke my heart. I was like, I don't like this anymore. Speaking of the truth.
Okay.
Here's your Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes.
And we know he's a complex and interesting guy. And his stand-up will always... look, the minutia and those observations are an aspect of him. But I'd love to see Jerry Seinfeld really get into... it's so unnatural, but his demons or talk about his life and talk about his kids and talk about, be a little bit more like Louis, be a little bit more autobiographical.
Right.
And when he goes up, this was his opener. He goes, everybody's saying you got to hydrate. Hydrate? Are you hydrated? Are you hydrating? Are you got to hydrate? And otherwise, you're dehydrated. That's his first applause break.
What if he was very dehydrated? What's that? That's probably his truth. He was probably jogging through Central Park.
I don't know.
He gets hydrated.
No.
What do you want? What do you want? 40 minutes on the 90 cars that he has, like jammed in his basement? Well, you know what?
I would love for him to go like, I was looking at my cards and I realized I'm empty and I'm gonna die.
What do you do with $100 million? What do you do?
Well, let me
You take it for a walk.
Let me put it to you. I like when I watch you, and I don't know if this will end up on a special or not. I hope it does.
Okay.
And I was talking to some other guys about this. Is when you talk about being famous. I like that.
Right.
You did this bit. And look, I don't. You said it on stage. I don't think it'll embarrass you. I think you'll like this. You talked about you were at a hotel in Vegas.
I gotta go. I'm not going there with you, Pete. Do not take me there.
We're going to talk about your childhood, Al Del Betty. Don't leave now. You said, and I was in the back, and I loved it, and no one else really laughed. It was a bad night.
Okay.
But you said, I felt like getting laid, so I went into the lobby, and, and then you circled your own face.
Okay.
Meaning, I will get recognized and someone will want to have sex with me.
Sure. Yeah. Now let's talk about the maybe 10 previous times when I walked into the lobby, circled the face, and nothing.
Of course. Sure. But it was great. Look, it's a grotesque thought.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big thought. It's an in your face. You're not supposed to talk that way.
Okay.
But that's true to a certain extent.
Right.
So I liked seeing that. I like someone talking about making when Tosh makes a joke. When Chappelle used to come to the Boston and would smoke, and that was when he just got $50 million or whatever. He's like, I'll pay the fine. Like just little nods, being like, what do I care? He's famous. Tell me what it's like to be famous.
Well, you also earn. I think that you earn the right to use more of everything once you've had the triumphs and then the foibles. And I think that once your sandbox is kind of full of the grief and the victories, then I think that even more so, it's kind of like a bit of your duty as a comic to like unveil certain things.
Yeah.
The things that are, I think, not only just because telling the truth is interesting, and even if a crowd of people, if there's 100 people in an improv and 50 are great fans of mine, and then like 30 are like just comedy fans and 20 are like absolutely not, you still would love to know that you're connecting in a way that they just can't get away from it. They're
truth. You're going
repelling,
back to the truth there.
But yeah, there's some truth there. So I think that you can run that gamut, and somebody like Chappelle, obviously, by who knows what he probably dealt with behind the scenes of like a show that became an industry like that, and the pressures and censors and and then the creative freedom of an artist versus strangers telling you can't say that, but that's how you got here. So I can imagine what. And I know how freeing that is to then be able to get up and use all of it, and whether it's in that case like some ego or a touch of arrogance.
Yes.
Well, I can do that because people, I think, also know, if you know anything about me, then that's certainly does not define my character. There's tons of different twists and turns in this.
I consider your character, even though he is big enough to fill Madison Square Garden. I don't mean sell it. I mean fill it. Mm-hmm. There is vulnerability there. It's not Andrew Dice Clay. You know what I'm saying? So when I see you letting an audience, I was going to say letting regular people see just a little glimpse of what it's like to be like, maybe it was a story of like a time when you were really feeling, maybe you had just done a big stadium like that and you felt like going out and you were super duper famous and full of ego in that moment. Sure. Why not talk about that? I don't. Oh, yeah. There's no problem with that. That's real. Everybody would do the same.
Everybody wants to know that moment of like, can I be something more just by walking into a room? But it's something you play with. It's not certainly something that you can't live in that moment. It's like Halloween. That's fun for a day.
That's what I'm saying.
And you're not going to still put on
it is like Halloween,
the persona for the rest of the year.
And you go down to the lobby in Vegas wearing like the Eddie Murphy Raw outfit, basically. And
you think you wore that around after that special? I would love to know if
just to get the newspaper. Yeah, it's okay. I'm Eddie Murphy. Don't worry about it. I appreciate that when people like Seinfeld. But some people want Seinfeld to be Seinfeld. But at a certain point, I wanted to be Seinfeld when I was starting out, and then at a certain point, I was like, that doesn't interest me. I want, like you, to be able to go on stage and you can be silly.
Yes, the emotions of the day I'd like to take with me.
A G-Zit. I'm sorry to quote your old stuff, but I know it better than your new stuff. But also a keychain that looks like a key.
Right.
You will do a silly joke just as well as anybody. And here's the other thing. You'll go Patrice. You'll go vulgar. You'll call yourself vulgar.
Right.
I can go vulgar, too. I don't want the stage to be somewhere where I have to be fake and put on a Halloween costume that I don't want to wear.
Yeah.
If only there can I be everybody.
If you step onto a stage and you suddenly, immediately, when your foot hits that stage, you feel more confined,
yes.
then you are doing it wrong.
Fuck that shit. Mm-hmm. But that's
the
kind of
stuff you write in your notebook that you circle as like, I can never say this on
Yes.
stage, but I had to write it down for something else.
Yes.
No.
What is that?
That's fear.
It's-
You should be sharing those things, even if that's taking 5 minutes out of your act and saying like to start it, like, hey, I wrote some things down. I don't know how you would telecast it.
Yes.
But try it,
Buddy.
Get that stuff out.
That's the real stuff.
That's the stuff, from my understanding, that like, a Hicks finally went up one night and he snapped and he may not, I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't there. I'm just like, he may not have gotten that same reaction of just like love, clap, applause, but he liked he liked what he got more. He
Less
liked that he
jokes, more me.
challenged.
That's his quote. Less jokes, more me. And challenge them.
Yeah.
And challenge himself.
I appreciate that. And yet I love the idea of being an entertainer more than being somebody who has to be terse or like wants
Right.
to be caustic.
Right.
I just want to be able to be anything that I am.
Right.
And I've said this. It's like I love irreverence. I'm a fan. I love different I love Stephen Wright. I like guys that are Martin Short.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love characters.
Yeah.
I love voices. Carlin. I like that I'm not a political guy per se, but I like that somebody could get very serious and then a minute later be doing a fart joke and making Carlin, Pryor. The architects, as Jon Stewart once said about these guys.
Right, yeah.
They, for me, really set like the groundwork of like, oh, we're allowed to be
Whatever we
whoever
want.
these comedy police that came later, like after the boom of the 80s, and suddenly there was comics monitoring comics. Like, you're not a true comic because it was
Right.
like, that's just
I
all
think
wrong.
that's going away. I sometimes do on stage, I'll do a Bill Cosby impression, and in the bit I go, I know this is hack, quote unquote. People want to marshal what impressions I can do. But
Right.
then I go, do you see how happy I am right now doing Filthy Cosby or whatever it is? Fucking get out of the way.
Sure.
You're in the way. People marshal my tweets all the time. Boo, you can do better. Scram. Beat it.
Right. So people are saying scram?
I say scram. I say scram and beat it. That's me to them.
I thought a 1940s detective was tweeting you.
Beat it. And let me see those gams. I don't have gams. Are gams legs?
Legs.
I do have gams.
I used to do a lot of Cole Porter plays. I know the games reference.
And you were in Greece. I texted Gary Gulman one day. Can I tell you a great Gary Gulman Patrice story?
Yeah.
I don't want to say who it was. It was Whitney Cummings. And she came up to Patrice and just started talking to Patrice and Gary. And Patrice didn't even know her.
Yeah.
And she's just talking. And then Patrice goes, you know what? You a phony bitch. He just said, you a phone to someone he didn't know. I text Gary Gulman, you a phony bitch. Will you please text him at some point, you a phony bitch?
Yes.
He will laugh very, very hard.
I have a lot of great Patrice stories, and I think one of my last, because we could dedicate an entire
Sure.
week to great Patrice stories, and having come up with them out of Boston was I wouldn't trade that for anything. But he, as I got to know him a little bit better, and he started being more. He could just be a blunt force trauma guy, and say those kinds of things. And as he would do it more, then like being closer to him, I started sometimes wondering who people he really liked and was just hazing.
Yes.
And you didn't really know. It was tough. It
Yes.
was really tough. But I will say one time, I don't want to say who, but a person came up and he went through the rigmarole of Patrice smashings, and then he just turned to me and just loud enough he went, "Real hate."
Oh!
like he was giving me the tell of like,
wow,
I gotta let you know, I'm not goofing with this guy.
That's incredible.
And it's funny because he's a person that to this day still thinks like, no, Patrice really liked me. I know it was just all a goof, and I didn't have the heart to be like, no, he really did not care for you.
I gotta tell, I don't have a lot of Patrice stories, but one of them was he was running his hour at the Boston, and I was hosting.
Yeah.
And we put him on and let him do an hour. I guess that was, what else are we gonna do? We were happy to have him. And then afterwards, he got off stage and he looked like Buddha. This guy who I was terrified to talk to was so calm. He was human. He ran his hour. It went well. He got off stage and I was like, that was great, Patrice. And he was like, thanks a lot, man. Thanks so much for putting me on. I was like, are you okay? I couldn't believe, and it meant so much. It made us, you know how we're all just comedians, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And in that moment I was like, oh, we're the same. You have a main line of relief and connection with the audience and belief in your own material, and you're calm. You're a baby on the teat. You got it. You can take a nap now.
I can tell you now, as you walked away, he turned to me and said, real hate.
God, that's laser. That was laserly.
You're the guy. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm telling you, Patrice liked me a lot. He liked me a lot. Here's a weird question for you.
And he, let's put a button on it, he's what we're talking about. He was elephant in the room.
Yes.
I mean, it's like next level shit. Patrice was approaching that legendary status of like, no, there's no going back, and we all accept him for what he is. Whether you're like a Stern, whatever you think of Stern, like he's there to stay, and you're going to listen. Right. You're going to listen whether you like it or not, kind of thing.
Well, that's that human evolution that we were talking about. Is the idea that accepting yourself, accepting your whole from your childhood or whatever it is, and I didn't get the sense that Patrice was necessarily trying to fill it. He was trying to express it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I think we should all be doing as humans. You mentioned incantations, and I'd love to get into new agey stuff. That was one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. And this has come up on the show before. It's been medically proven that it's very beneficial to say to yourself, I accept myself unconditionally right now. Mm-hmm. That's like proven sort of thing. And that's what I see when I see Patrice. Like one thing, sorry to bring myself into it, I just know myself so much better than anyone else. But one time I saw...
Is that a title of a book? I know myself better than everybody else. What's in parentheses? The true love story of me meeting me.
And the cover is me looking in a mirror, of course.
Prologue by
me,
Maya Angelou.
God in heaven. The time,
Pete, you know what? I think you need to laugh more during the show as well.
I get a lot of shit for laughing.
It would be impossible for you to edit your own show because the vapor of your laugh trail is so long that you would have two guffaws randomly at the beginning of a question of the last side. You just hear,
They're unremovable. Fuck what I was about to tell you. What I wanted to put to you, but I bet you'll enjoy, is talking about the childhood holes, which sounds weird, is I've always likened that to the spider bite. Spider-Man gets bitten by the spider. That's an unpleasant trauma from his childhood. And instead of like holing away and disappearing, he uses that mutation to become Spider-Man.
Right.
And I feel like that's every comedian. There's some trauma.
Yeah, there's an origin tale.
There's an origin tale. And you're saying yours was acne and being teased. Where'd you go to junior high?
I would say that was like, I would say that those were the things that broke me. What really, not to get too maudlin with it, I came from a family where there was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of abuse.
Verbal, physical?
Abuse, alcohol abuse on my father's side. There was some physical abuse in my family, not to me specifically, but it was just a very volatile upbringing, but it was also a very, oddly enough, humorous. It was a lot of humor. There was a lot of funny moments and people and things happening in my house to level out when the night would come and it would be it would be trying, a lot of turmoil. Was
your dad? It's so obvious when I'm leading you with my own issues, but in an effort to relate, I look back. I think as a child, my dad felt, and I love my dad. I always have to say this. It's hard for me to talk about, but there was some alcohol, and there were fighting and that sort of thing. I think that's my origin story as well, and me trying to control how people are feeling, trying to make them laugh.
I'm there with you
and feel better. And now, do you feel as a grown man? I'm also the poster boy for the Oedipal complex all day. And it's not so much that I want to fuck my mom as that I wanted to protect my mom and love my mom and like win her affection, which I did in spades to this day, just her favorite golden boy. And then my dad, who we're very close now, like after I got divorced, we got very, very close, and he respects me. He's the kind of guy that wants to know what I make for things. You know what I mean? That's dad's language. And now he respects what I do, and he's proud of me and all that sort of stuff. So now we have this new relationship. But in my dreams, I have dreams where we're like physically fighting and I'm winning sort of thing. It's Oedipus. It's Freud would have loved me. I don't want to fight my dad, but in my subconscious, there's something that I'm working out. And I'm often like protecting my mother from, this is some vulnerable shit, but I'll protect my mother from my dad in the dream. In the dream, my mother is my age and my father is his current age, and I'm my current age. It's fucked all day. I'm wondering, did your dad get...
So what you're trying to say is you'd be buddies with Freud?
Yes. Best fucking buddies. All day smoking cigars and going, this is really my cock. I already told you B. Pollen, and that's how Tarantino dips his dick in ink.
That's a lot, Pete, that you just shared with me.
Yes.
With all of us.
Do you relate to that? And if you don't, that's okay. What is it? Was your dad a villain? Did he feel like a villain to a child?
Some things you said, I very much was with you, and then some things are certainly very unique to you. I think with my father, first let me say this: he was an incredibly talented person who didn't allow himself to realize that in his life, and I think alcohol thwarted that. And so I knew from a very early age that he was going to be a kind of a hero of mine, but a flawed hero. I didn't know how much so till I got a little older and realized he was abused horribly. He had a lot of talent, but I don't think he had that thing that we thirst for from our parents, which is like, good job, take it a little further. I don't think he had that kind of motivation, so therefore giving it to me was also alien to him. It was kind of like, oh, you created this thing, and well, I don't know what we do with it. Instead of being like, what do we do with it? And so there was a guy who I was very confused about, and also as you get a little bit older, you start going like, well, I'm all of that. I see all of that in myself, but am I going to go down that same road? I see so many similarities with me and this guy. So I think that my refereeing my parents, trying to entertain them, or in my little way, kind of keep them away from each other, was definitely through through humor, through trying to make light of situations, and then it wasn't until junior high school till I started dealing with my own problems of how I felt about just myself, my self-esteem. That everything collapsed. That's where everything really kind of went down, down into the trenches.
For you?
For me, yes.
A couple thoughts. Do you feel like some of your, because I feel this as well, some of your dad's tenacity, some of that toughness is also part of why you succeeded. You know what I mean? It's this guy who's what's hard nose mean? I just mean like he's like, I'll just keep it to my dad. My dad
had a beak.
Your dad was toucan Sam.
He was very bird-like, my father. I'd say he was a raven. I would say this.
I would say that. I'm just saying, for my father being this providing guy, not the most growing up, not the most emotional, let's connect, fish, chit-chat guy. I got a lot of my nurturing from my mother. As my dad would still say, it should be and should have been. I think I got his work ethic and a little bit of that, like, that withholding of emotions, that East Coast sort of pinched New Englander thing, sometimes helps me through some of the winters of my own emotions.
Right.
Do you acknowledge that you got some stuff from your dad in that regard?
Well, I knew immediately that I had his exact literally his exact kind of physical form. And I identified that my kind of broad shoulders and like we walk forward.
Yeah.
The men of my family like come into a room kind of like slightly at a 45-degree angle. Like I immediately saw I had these things.
Good for comedy. That's a good position for comedy.
Good. Yes. How I finally realized how to be comfortable in it, but way back then it was like, oh wait a minute, I'm not an athlete. They were all athletes. They built railroads. These were like, I was the first one who was very sensitive. I was more my mother. My mother's very fragile soul, and I had that with the exterior of my dad. So he was expecting me to be a leader.
Yes.
And I was the exact opposite. I was, way more of a mama's boy when I was a kid.
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to hang around my mom, and so that was troubling to me
you
because
look like your dad. That's a great story.
Looked like my dad, and again had my dad's even my voice, and because he was a broadcaster. After he didn't make it as a baseball player, he did commentary. He had a great radio voice, and he was an enunciator, and he loved language, which is why I believe I'm such a kind of a person who appreciates language and painting verbal pictures. My dad did that.
An enunciator.
And an enunciator,
big
yes.
enunciator.
Yeah, the Boston accent was not something I had heavily.
Yeah.
But so I really identified these things immediately that I had in common with my pop, but I knew that I wasn't brave. And he was like and maybe the alcohol helped him with that, but he was a guy who just walked into a room, and I don't feel like, and I knew later maybe sometimes fear prevents a person from being a bit more calculating and understanding. So you come in and you go, Pete, this is the way this show's going to go today. I have some great ideas. And you think you're helping.
Yeah.
If I walked in and said, I already thought of 5 things you should ask me because, and you would think I'm helping. And I, for years, thought that's kind of me. I bring a lot.
Right.
But it's overwhelming to people. It's sometimes even just too gregarious, too bullying almost to come in. And so I could see these things that I had in touch with my pop, but I also knew that I had a lot of work to do in order to feel that I was welcome in places. So, because if you go into a situation and you feel like you're just like coming in gangbusters because you have a look or like a tone, if you can't communicate once you're in there, then it's a lonely room. And I've been in those rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't follow yourself.
There's a saying that didn't quite identify to me, but for some reason I always felt like some people brighten a room by leaving it.
Oh, God.
And sometimes I would feel that. I would feel like I would come in so kind of hot and excitable that I think when I left, people were kind of like, all right, where were we?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good
because I was just so like I'm included.
Yeah,
and that meant something to me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't till probably in the last maybe 7 or 8 years that I kind of went back and did learn more about my father. And it was an interesting thing because he was a guy
how do you do that?
Well, talk to old friends and people that, knew him, sat on the bar stool with him,
Sure.
and, family. And what I learned about my dad, which I really understood, was some people didn't like my father. People just didn't like him, and they didn't know why. They just didn't like him. And they would say that. They'd be like, just something about your pop I just didn't like. And I understood that. I definitely understood that. I was like, yeah, this kind of, not just a preconceived notion based on what people hear, but truly there was a certain presence that my father had that was a little intimidating, even though he could be just a deer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have that too. And I need to keep that in check and understand that when I'm feeling vulnerable, that it could flip into that other area where people think, take it the wrong way. Take it as something more.
You overcompensate. It's like
that's it.
It's the most gregarious guy could be lonely. Like your dad might have been like, why don't these fuckers like me?
Yeah. No, it's like I want to charge in there to try to find some love. Where's and no, you can't go in any what's that old bull, young bull kind of scenario? It's like whatever that from the movie Colors did Duvall and Penn or it's this thing of like you just you start to learn that again, coming back to like, you just want to feel like yourself, and you don't have to do more to get appreciation, and you shouldn't have to sacrifice and give so much less to equal yourself with who you think is in the room.
It's advertising as opposed to the product. Like Coke is just, caramel and sugar and water, but like all the sensationalized advertising.
And cocaine.
And there's a touch of cocaine.
Day.
I don't know if you know this. There's a touch of heroin in it currently. But that I understand that. That reminds me a little. I bet people felt similarly about my father. He is a big person. He's a big personality and a big drinker. So I'm inspired by what you said, because it would be. I've always said that I'd love to see a film of my father's life and my mother's. I just love that. Would be heaven for me, is to be able to see what they were really like, because they're fascinating characters to me.
Yeah.
And then I got them when they were homogenized and pasteurized into my parents.
It's really interesting. I just had this exact same conversation with Courtney, my youngest sister, the other day. I said, I wish I could, I know all these things about my dad and my mom's ex, and I know like mostly negative. I was like, I'd love to know who she dated. I'd love to be able to go back and see. Did she have some great relationships where there's some really good guys in there?
What were her killer moves? Like something where it was like, fucking yay, Mom, you did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But if I can make it a little bit more like how the universe works, this career, this life I chose, I think the complexity of my father helped my mother to prepare to know how to communicate with me and help me to do this living.
I think that's beautiful.
I think that the insanity of it and the and all that came with it was
Jesus, Dane.
Yeah, no, I
that's
think
true for me too. I'm not you, but my mom knows how to talk to me about my life because she's already dealt with a hurricane person.
Right. Yeah. So anything I threw at my mom, like, it never seemed like she was like, that happens. She was like, Dane, as long as nobody is drunkenly coming in the middle of the night and pissing on you by accident because they think that you're the toilet, you're great.
Well, it's not. What about Mom? So I talked a little bit about Mom is my cheerleader.
Yeah.
Thinks everything that I do.
And your parents are still with us?
They're still with us.
Right.
Actually, one more thing about your dad. I remember on the television show HBO's Toygasm, you said there's a phone call to your dad, and you said, try to be there, Pop. Don't worry, it's just the biggest thing I've done in my life.
Yeah.
And I related to that.
And he was still kind of like, I'll try to make it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. If that doesn't keep you humble, Pete.
Yeah. Isn't that it? I mean,
Sure.
You got a dad hole, too.
Yeah. I can't imagine what a nightmare it would be if you actually had parents who, like Hollywood parents, who are like, God, you are the best.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, it would be a problem, wouldn't it?
It's frightening. The thought of that is actually absolutely horrific.
I get enough from my parents of the pride and all that sort of stuff, but then like they want to go to the next. Like you said, you put very well. Oh, we got this. Now what do we do with it?
Sure.
They do that kind of instinctually. They're like, oh, you got that thing. What do we? What does that
where's
mean,
that go?
Peter?
What's next?
Yeah, they just want to know what it means.
Yeah,
and that keeps me wondering what it means.
Well. My rapport with my mom was nothing short of, I've said she was my compass. She knew the direction of my life before I could even really resolve it, even in junior high school. She was already telling me this stuff and your skin and...
Fuck you, Dane. That's what my mom used to do.
Yeah.
Beat him away with a stick. You ever get that one?
In the future, any good or bad metaphor, she probably slung at me at some point.
I couldn't get a girl... for nothing. I can't even finish that metaphor. And when you said your mom was a compass, I wanted to say, did she never eat shredded wheat? Boom. Okay. She never ate shredded wheat.
We're going to let Pete laugh for 9 minutes, and then we'll come back with more.
We'll be right back. And now it's your podcast. You do have a podcast. It's a show. But I remember going on mom walks. This is shit I haven't said on the show.
Wait a minute. Mom walks?
Mom walks.
Is that like Up With People? What is this?
It was just, we'd go, life was so boring in Lexington, Massachusetts. We'd just walk like ladies. That's how I learned how to chat like a lady. We'd just go on mom walks. I would chat like the ladies do. And we'd, trade gossip and get our hair curled.
In 1 week, I'm going to text you, Pete, you and me, mom walk.
I would do it. Capital M, capital W.
And we're going to chat like ladies.
I love chatting like ladies because they have no problem sharing what they're feeling. It doesn't need to go anywhere. It's a wonderful practice.
Oh, my God.
And she used to tell me the stuff that I'd like to bring it back to you, that idea of like don't worry, you're going to be okay. Like a blind belief in me.
Absolutely, 100% was at a breaking point in my life, something that was just really terrible for me. I remember her sitting next to me and saying, and understanding how far away from myself I was, and already at that young age trying to get me in the process of, Dane, your best friend is you. You learn to love yourself. Learn to appreciate
You're on the right podcast right now. I mean, that is like the ministry of this podcast. If everybody loved themselves, everybody would be better at loving each other. Keep going.
Yeah, so, that was the beginning of it. But also, she could be super, super... she wasn't my kid is the darling, the belle of the ball. She wasn't like one of those neighbors who your kid breaks the window and they protect him and say, "Oh no, your windows are too close to our house." She was like an own up to it kind of guy. She was like, you make a mistake, you own up to it. You see a mistake about to happen, jump out of the way, thwart it before, and if you do it, you deserve the ramifications of that. So she was no wallflower. She was tough.
Did you get into, and I'm not trying to force this, I'm just wondering if that was one of the things you related to. Did you feel, in the absence of your father, your dad being a little bit of a drinker and a pee-oner sort of person, I know that was hyperbole, I hope it was hyperbole.
Go on.
Pregnant pause. Did you start to was your mom kind of like one of your best friends? Was it sort of like a little bit of a, we got each other in all this craziness?
Totally. Yes. Yeah. She was, I told everything to my mom, and for a long time during the very, very lean years of comedy being nothing short of bleak, the 90s, let's call it. Yeah. She was a cheerleader.
Let's call it the 90s.
She was a cheerleader. She was always... If there was nothing happening for 6 months, she would say, "Well, this is the rest that you need, Dane, before it starts getting busy.
Beautiful.
You will miss this rest. You'll say, 'Oh, I wish I had 6 months,' because someday you're not going to be able to say that, Dane."
Fucking A.
She could find the
that's what you
the glimmer in anything.
That's what a performer, that's what an artist, that's what anybody endeavoring to do anything needs, a voice like that.
Sure.
That's a great gift that your mom gave.
I was lucky to have a balance of both. I had a father who was pretty, he just wanted the proof. He constantly wanted prove it, and there really was no kind of like settling, like, "Oh, you made it" kind of thing. And then my mother obviously was always like, "Challenge yourself, try. Mm-hmm. What about that? Will people enjoy that? Well, are you afraid of that? Well, give it a shot." So that was a perfect kind of cocktail of parenting.
Was it? Now I'm really. How did you break away from your mom, or how did your relationship evolve? Was that bumpy?
No, it was, I went to New York, and I started in 90 doing stand-up. I went to New York in 95, I guess, to make a comedy tape, and through a series of fortunate events, I ended up staying in New York.
You took New York in 2 nights. I know the story, Dane. I've been in your wake for a decade.
You've read my Wikipedia.
Is that on your Wikipedia?
Who knows?
I'll put it on your Wikipedia.
It's terrible.
It's a great story. Well, that Barry Katz called you the man who took New York in 2 nights, because you had a set at the Boston and you destroyed, and then you came back the next night and destroyed again.
It was Caroline's.
I'm sorry.
I'd gone to Caroline's to make a TV tape. They at that time on a Monday night, you could give them $35. And they would make you a TV quality tape, because people were coming to Boston, like Comedy Central, and I was not getting on the showcases or evenings to do like stand up or whatever was like the show. And so I needed a TV quality tape, because the catch-22 is like, you can't get on the showcase without a TV tape. Well, I can't get on TV and then give you a TV tape.
Yes.
So New York offered that. I went there, and on that Monday night, MTV and Kelly Lee from ABC were both just happened to be there. And approached me after. Do you have a manager? How do we get in touch with you?
And you were already with Barry Katz?
No, I wasn't.
Oh.
No, I wasn't. I'd gone to New York also. A friend of mine, a comedian, had to go pick up a check from Barry's office. So I went with him. And it wasn't until I got into Barry's office and saw the pictures on the wall of guys that I really admired that it kind of all clicked. Where I was like, I wouldn't mind being up on this wall. I think I said to him, he said, "What are your plans?" I was like, "To be on this wall." And that night I did the set, and so then I called Barry. I was like, do you want to, maybe this is serendipitous. Like, do you want to come help me out?
That's what I say when I go to Arlington House of Pizza. That's a pretty long callback. I'm proud of myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I can go now.
There's no way I'm gonna forget asking you about your career. That's so interesting to me. When did you had the transition from boy to man? What helped your parents see you as a grown ass man? Because you're little baby Dane. Is it career success? Is it moving? You cited moving.
No, I think that it wasn't really with my dad. It was a long time before we finally kind of sat as men.
Did you buy him a Cadillac?
Did I buy him a Cadillac? No, he wasn't like that. He was terribly frugal in terms of, like, I would say, Dad, I'm going to fly to L.A. and then it was followed up constantly by like. I'm going to get you back for that. I'm going to just write down again how much that... It was like I couldn't even enjoy giving him something because he had so much pride. He wanted to...
Really?
It was, again, way later in the last few years of his life, he ate it up. And I think he really, like... it was wonderful. It was what you want it to be when it's like, Dad, I'm okay. Let's have some... Come on. I have access to some places, the Red Sox, or come with me. No, you don't owe the Red Sox anything. They invited us. You don't have to clean up the dugout or do some shit,
Handing bats to me.
But earlier on, I think my mother just immediately identified, truly, for her, the fact that I could walk away from the house and keep going was the win.
Yeah.
More than the career, more than anything else.
You're Frodo and you went through the cornfield.
I just walked away.
Yeah.
And I didn't say this earlier, but I couldn't, for years, I'd start walking to school and I would have to come home because I would have panic or anxiety attacks. I would throw up. So I couldn't walk away. I couldn't leave home. I couldn't leave that nest. So just going was like,
fucking A, man.
You won.
That's great. You're reminding me also when I was in junior high and then high school, I had like a bald spot from stress, and I used to leave school. I'd pretend I was sick and go home and all that sort of stuff. And we're the motherfuckers that went to the same kids. I'm not just trying to be congratulatory to both of us, but I'm just saying, went to New York? It doesn't make any sense. But there's something, you're trying to put something out. You're trying to shovel some ice on some fire or something.
I'm telling you right now, you and I are going to write a joint book called We're the Motherfuckers.
And then it comes shrink wrapped with When Me Met Me or whatever. I can't remember what it was called, but that one's not selling. You and I write a book.
It's not selling.
It's just not moving.
Law of attraction. Don't say it's not selling.
It's selling. Kindle
selling
edition.
like hotcakes.
Kindle edition selling like hotcakes. I just think that's weird. You go from throwing up. Look, let's paint the picture of Dane as a kid. If this were a movie or something, you'd be the guy with the yo-yo in the class, and you're like, hey, well, what's up, Mrs. P? Oh, Dane. And you're teaching the class and acting a fool. You're puking.
Yeah, no. I was not. No, I was in, like, Invisible Boy or whatever. I just never felt like. I never felt present in. I never felt like. I would rather have gotten picked on and had the attention of that. I felt like a nobody, like a nonentity, like the invisible kid. Is how I felt for a lot of years until I got into high school. Until I started getting into theater. Until I met my high school drama teacher and mentor. Up until then, I loved home. I loved my parents at home. I loved a lot of what happened there. I didn't like or want all the stuff that went along with it, but I wanted to be home with my action figures in my world, in my...
Dane, I can see the comments already about how I kept trying to force that we're very similar, but we are. I equated being home with everyone being happy.
Right. Mom
worried when my brother was out. So I would be home all the time. The guy who now goes out for a living, I'm talking about myself now, never went out because it caused anxiety.
Sure.
So all I could do was be around. Summer vacations were boring as shit. I didn't do anything. Then it was a really big move when I started going to camp, and that's where I started like doing improv at camp and all that sort of stuff, realizing...
Getting molested.
And I got molested, deeply mined.
And molesting others. Becoming more of a...
Paying it forward, we called it. It was a great time.
Diddling it forward,
It was a diddling camp. It was called Camp Diddlewood. So I did. I did what it said on the manifesto. I just think that's very interesting because, I've been opening with it on stage lately, and I bet you'll relate. I go on stage and I go... I'm a grown man. My mother has no idea where I am right now because I'm still relishing in the idea that I get on planes and don't tell my parents.
Right.
I've called them. It's not a big deal anymore. I'm in Minneapolis. They now ask me, where are you?
Yeah.
And there was a time when if I went to Lexington Center past 10 o'clock, my mom would have a stroke. Would just fucking freak out.
Pete, you're an adult now.
I'm a grown man. But you know what? Fuck it, man. I remember a friend of mine got his license before me, and he was driving around, and I was like, isn't it cool? I didn't have my license. I was like, isn't it cool you can drive? And he was like, to be honest, I'm kind of over it. And I was like, I never want to be over anything. Yeah. I still get in my car, and I go like, I get to maneuver this piece of steel and glass. I think
the minute I got into my mom's car, I was already in comic mode because I think the first solo journey, I said, I was going to go get ice cream. I said, I've got a gig at Brigham's in 10 minutes. I was already... I'm doing a type 5 with a waffle cone down it.
And you use it like a microphone.
No, but that was like where I used to drive it first.
That's awesome.
To Arlington Heights to get myself a Brigham's.
This is what I really would love to talk to you about, because I know, and I don't think I need to encourage you, but this is the place. This show, is the safe place to talk about weird ideas. Okay. And I'm a big believer.
Right, because isn't that the title of the show?
You Made It Weird.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even want you to guess for fear that you'd be so wrong.
I knew weird was in the title.
I just did Jay Moore's, and I was like, what's the name of this show? It's so much bigger than this. It's More Stories.
Oh, that makes sense.
But I thought it would be like stories, and then I was like, which one is this? Me just talking to you? Because I didn't tell one story.
Mine would be Raw and Uncooked.
Raw and Uncooked.
Ugh.
That's actually what the Mad Magazine. It was Dane Uncooked.
No, I don't want to see that.
Let's talk. I want to talk about. This is the first place to go.
Okay.
And I actually I ran this by you at the Improv. I was like, I'd love to have you talk about things like this. When Steve Byrne did What the Fuck, he talked about. So I'm quoting him. So you correct me if I'm wrong.
The Mark Maron podcast.
The Mark Maron podcast,
which I talked about.
Which I heard you talk about as well.
Yeah.
I've already heard you respond to that or whatever. But the thing that was interesting to me that didn't freak me out, because I do something similar, is Steve said with a little bit of discomfort that he came to your house and you said something along the lines of maybe it's not your time to be in Hollywood. And then you said, because I go on these walks, again, this is Steve, so this double paraphrase.
Right.
I'm now paraphrasing a paraphrase, is you go into the hills and you give your energy to the city and it gives it back to you. Now, I think the point of that story was for everybody to go, what a fucking loon. But I'm here to tell you, I go on walks. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, mom walks.
Oh, God, you fucking sharpshooter.
We talk as women do. In whispers behind barns.
That was samurai sword level. That was samurai sword through silk. You threw a scarf in the air and you just let it land on the blade. And I went, what are you doing? And you went, I'm a craftsman. You're a drill. You're so much of a craftsman. I go into the hills. And I don't care. These are private things you're not supposed to say. But I look at all of Los Angeles from the hills. I see the observatory and the Hollywood sign. And I just kind of breathe it in. I don't care. I don't care what this means to people if that sounds strange. I breathe it in. I feel it. And I do feel a little bit of me giving it back. And I think crazy shit that I'm about to share with you, like, I'm not in Los Angeles. Los Angeles isn't me. I go, this is my town. I can't be stopped. These are things that I think. Do I believe that? I can be stopped. I've been stopped so much more than I've not been stopped.
Right.
But it doesn't hurt me to think, and I know I'm in Los Angeles. Los Angeles isn't in me. But it doesn't hurt me to think those things.
Sure, to have these positive affirmations.
It puts me in a good place. So when I hear you saying that, I go, I bet Dane and I have some similarities when it comes to the things that as these scared anxiety boys hanging out with their moms who, again, we're in different levels, I understand that, but go on to do this weird job, I believe you've come up with some things that have reprogrammed your brain and maybe help your brain. That's what I'm putting to you.
Yeah, and I think just, in terms of that particular quote or that conversation, a couple things. And I like Steve, and I'm glad that we, kind of came full circle with it because Steve is a really talented guy. I believed it even the day that Steve and I had that breakdown in communications.
Yes.
But what I kind of took from that was everybody's going to take away. Everybody has their own idea of what a conversation is, especially when there's some angst and there's some not goodwill in that moment. Right. People take a different perspective. You hear things sometimes the way that you want to hear things.
That's a Tarantino thing.
And also, you say things sometimes without actually thinking things through. I think that we were both probably in some respect guilty of that. Mm-hmm. And again, I won't really talk too much about. Steve and I talked about it, I think, in a really great way, a closure in a great way.
Yeah.
But I did share what I learned from that was that you can't always share your personal kind of beliefs with everybody, and speaking of boundaries and how far people get to kind of come in with you, I didn't know Steve like that. And I think that because I want to know people like that and I want people that close to me, I think that I overshared a little bit.
Yeah.
And I also think that I was influenced by guys like Jim Carrey and people that I heard who'd gone to the top of Mulholland and did that, had like a primal scream moment,
Yeah.
and
See, I resonate with that too. I didn't know that.
I shared maybe a little bit too much of myself, and understanding why at that time Steve had not resonated or wanted to come to a middle ground with something like that. It made more sense to me later, especially when after the Mark Maron stuff, of why we both kind of left that situation the way it was. I don't take anything negative now from that, but at the time it was. And in fact, even at the moment that it happened, I remember feeling like, well, this was the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
Two guys just sitting face to face and
belly button to belly button.
Belly button to belly.
I'm not kidding.
Probably literally.
We've kind of been doing that during the podcast, and it does work a little bit.
But I had a lot of moments of great. I think in the last 5 years, I would even put that moment with Steve and a few of these other guys as like some of the most important kind of learning experiences of my life, because it also all trickled back to, if I don't really allow myself to be, what I truly am as a result of losing my parents and what grief really means, and acceptance and success, and if I don't let it all in, I'm not just the kid from Arlington anymore. I have to let it all in. Then I think moments like that, whether I liked it or not, kind of started to shake and jar me into being a better person. And then my stand-up just got fun again, really fun, like in the last several years. And I attribute it all to just being way more like I sat with tough people who asked tough questions, and we hung out and put it all on the table. There was no speculation anymore. It was like, here's the story, the way I saw it, the way he saw it. We agree to disagree, or we agree.
Right.
And so yeah, big turning point in my life.
Well, what of that stuff? Because that Steve thing feels resolved to me. I'm cool. Like, that matters. I'm cool with it, Dane. But
we're glad, Pete. That was one thing we talked about even that day. We didn't even know you. Said there's going to be this guy. It was almost like Back to the Future 2. You had Gray's Sports Almanac in your pocket. If an old man comes to you with ideas of comics who are soon to hate you,
as a dad who drank, I hate Future Biff. I hate that character. I'm uncomfortable with that whole plot. And Marty coming to save his mom is very Oedipal, and I resonate with it too much. I want to know, and I hear you talk about boundaries, so I don't want you to share anything that you don't want to, but do you feel some of that Jim Carrey stuff? Because I'm right up that alley in the reasonable way. Does writing a check for $1 million and putting it in your father's pocket in his coffin get you $1 million when you post-date it? I don't know. I don't think it hurts.
I've never put a lot of value in money. I've never been a person that those were not the things that. Growing up, we didn't have it. We were, we were a welfare family at one point, especially after my dad. Also in junior high school, he was politely asked to leave with a restraining order. So once he was gone, we were in some real tough times. So free lunch tickets, I think that was like the thing back in school. I never really had a love affair with money. I was never a person that needed a lot of stuff. I always wanted a beautiful home someday, and I always thought about protecting my family someday. But I didn't often think about like, hey, I need like a one-of-a-kind Boba Fett in my...
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't didn't need
It
a lot
has
of
a
that
real
stuff.
man in it.
I need to hire the actual actor.
I don't want any man. I want the man who played Boba Fett.
So no, I wish that that had brought me some kind of next level enlightenment, but no, the money never did anything, which is probably why, not that it's something we want to get too deep into, when it finally was, a lot of it was stolen from me, from my brother.
Right.
People always say, how did that happen? How did you not know that, your brother was doing this from you? And the truth is, because I never cared about the money.
Right.
And so I never looked at it.
Yep.
I just didn't. I knew that I was paying my bills that I needed to pay, and because I didn't live like some kind of over the top lifestyle, it didn't matter, the money.
Right,
it was all about just collaborations. That was a win for me. Like being invited into a group of people and saying like, we want you on this movie or in this TV show or in this sketch. Yeah, that was like I would have paid to be in a lot of those situations.
Right.
So yeah, no, it was never.
No,
about
money's boring. No interesting people love money.
I know some people who are so good at loving their money. I do know people that are like, they just, there's certain toys and certain things that they, and I'm not a person that, I'm not like a tightwad kind of person.
Yeah.
I like to do things. I like to, I like to know that I have access to some great places because I can take care of my friends, or a birthday party can be in a cool spot because. So in that regard, it's the shit.
What do you? Where do you draw the line with treating your friends? You got your your Aldale Bennies.
What do you mean draw the line?
What I mean is, you are doing well financially, and then you have your friend, and let's say it's a lovely childhood friend. Do you feel like does that encroach? Does that violate your boundaries if you send them to Tahiti?
I haven't done that.
Yeah,
no, I haven't. I mean, I've done some. I usually do things with my friends that tend to kind of symbolically say, you would not be here unless you earn this for yourself. I'm not giving you something just for the sake of giving it to you. Like
earned through friendship.
I would say like Al would understand this, and I really hope that he doesn't mind that I'm going to say this, but when I brought Al on my like second to last tour, and there were some people that were like, "Why does he get the spot?" I brought Al, I brought Bobby Kelly, and I'd started with these guys, but I didn't just give Al the spot because we started together. I loved that the original kind of trio of guys could go, but I gave Al the spot because I'd been watching him back at the factory after many years of doing nothing, getting back into it and being funny, making me laugh, making the crowd laugh, and he was doing the work again. So there was not like a, hey, let me throw you a bone.
Sure.
I don't know, like Elvis, you hear these things, he bought everybody a house, and everybody had their own fridge in Graceland with what they wanted. And no, I don't think my friends know that. My friends realize that I'm not, the money doesn't connect us, and I think that people who years ago used to maybe hang with me because of some kind of shine they got from a spotlight, they're no longer road dogs of mine, and I think that the important people in my life that just like me for what I am away from all this stuff they're still there. And a lot of them aren't in the industry. People that are just like East Coast regular people.
Right.
That we don't even talk about this stuff.
That becomes very valuable. But you go to dinner with them. Is it assumed that you're buying?
Is it assumed that I'm buying? No, because they'll still, Al and I got it. Al's taken me for lunch many times,
sure.
But I like to take him out for the big dinner once in a while. I like to be that guy. That feels pretty good.
Well, it's a gift. It's a gift to you as well.
Yeah.
To feel generous, to have a vessel to be generous into.
Oh yeah, it's
that's a need.
Yeah. No, it's this talking about it is the most I've thought about it.
Is that right?
Yeah. The most we've talked about this right now is probably the most I've ever given to a conversation. I probably should have given more with certain people in my life. Hence, what happened with my brother. But
was he your business manager?
Yes.
See, that always scared, because I have a business manager, and that terrifies me.
It should.
Yeah.
And that's why you should sit with him once a week, and you should look at everything, and you should never give power of attorney and sign your own checks.
Yikes.
Yeah. Pete, you got to do that. My favorite thing is every agency that you're first with, right? And for all you young bucks out there keeping notes, like 101 of like coming to Hollywood, take whatever it is, $1,000, $1,200, incorporate yourself, and never let the checks go through your agents. Never let somebody else say, "Oh, we'll get the check and then we'll pay." Never. You get the check, you pay the commission.
Huh.
Always.
Really?
Yeah, things get lost in the shuffle, and you got to kind of self-audit and keep an eye on things. It doesn't have to be like obsessive and all that, but I sit. I do what I should have been doing all along, but again, I trusted my brother inexplicably with. Yeah. But you have to, Pete.
I believe Al told me that the plan was to take everything. I was like, how were they planning on getting away with that? And then I'm sorry, I'm hoping I'm not betraying. We can always take it out if you don't like talking about this. But
no. The
idea, I was like, they took $3 million or something. And I was like, how do they think no one was going to, more?
Oh, yeah.
More?
It was probably around 14.
$14 million they stole? See, then I'm like, how do they think they're going to get away with that? And he was like, and correct me if he's wrong, they were going to take everything and disappear.
I don't know what their intentions were. I just know that they were definitely on their way, and the reason they have, served jail time and are still continuing to is because they thought they could whatever they thought they could do, they couldn't.
Yeah.
And when they got caught, it wasn't just me; it was the state of Massachusetts. It was a lot of people that had way more questions for them than even I had.
Yeah.
I just had betrayal questions because this was my brother, and I loved my brother.
Brother-in-law, or was it?
My mom's previous marriage.
Oh, Jesus.
Older brother from my mom's previous marriage. And I adored my brother. So it was entirely not about business.
Yeah.
It was not about business.
It was an emotional
just all personal for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was about my business and things that went along with that was just humiliating, actually. It was more humiliating because then everybody knows, and of course, not only do people start to know, it becomes another story as it goes down the line, and then also it becomes fodder for other people to say, like, yeah, you deserve it because you're actually shit, and then like people want to use it, and they do, and they're good at it, and people, there's some really professional haters out there, and they're very good at their job.
That's actually, I'm kind of.
You know what? They should incorporate because
and never give power of attorney.
All you haters out there, you got to protect yourself.
You've actually been. You have that great opener where you say, "Why come back?" and you say, "For the haters." I remember years ago. Al Del Benny is your high school friend, and he's a friend of mine, and we were eating eggs in a diner after a show, and I asked him...
Who paid?
I paid. I made that up. I don't know why I said that. We definitely split it.
Split eggs?
Oh. Yeah, sure. It was an expensive restaurant. God. And we also had Cristal, so it's hard.
Eggs is like, I got this one. You get the treats at the movie theater. I'll get the eggs.
Treats. I remember I said to him, because he was touring with you at the time, and I said, what does Dane think about all these haters? And he said, and I don't think this is true anymore, he said he doesn't know. He doesn't seem to know. You didn't seem to be aware at that time that you had a lot of people upset.
I don't know when that was that you guys had that conversation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't tell you, because I don't know either, but it was probably around... 2005?
Okay. Yeah, I think that probably I wouldn't say I didn't know, but I think that I sheltered myself because my mom was ill. That was the beginning of when my mom was getting cancer and would finally succumb to cancer. And my dad, like double shot of cancer with my folks.
Yikes.
And so I would say like there was a good 3 or 4 year period where I was not... I was just like clouded.
Sure.
To put it quite easily. So yeah, maybe I don't know if I was aware. I mean, certainly was aware of I still conducted my business. I was I was a performer first and had to do business with the arenas and places that I was performing in. But I would say, given the situation with my folks, and then my brother was on the tail end of that, so like pretty much like 3 deaths back to back.
Yeah,
I was probably not looking for any more negative. So maybe that's what he meant by that.
Yeah, it is bizarre to me. I talked to Chris D'Elia on the show a lot, and you come up on this podcast a lot, and I've told you that I'm a big fan of yours, and I always have been, and not that it's that big of a deal, but count you as one of my influences, and I think you've influenced a lot of people. And what I think is actually funny is I think you've influenced a lot of people that would say they hate you, which I think is really, really telling to me. I also, to make it public, I think every comedian owes you a debt because more people come to comedy shows, specifically colleges. I told you one time, every college I did when I was really busting my butt trying to do these shitty college shows,
Right.
more people came because they thought it might be like the next Dane Cook could be here. Let's go see the comedian.
Yeah, I think that was one of the goals as I started finding some popularity early 2000 was I want to make these shows kind of a night to remember. I want it to feel like an event anywhere I could. And so if that lent itself to, those colleges and other, clubs saying, hey, more people are showing up because comedy looks great.
It did look great.
Then that helps.
It got a huge facelift. It definitely did.
I think so. I think that where I tried to, do little nips and tucks was, I saw in the 90s comedy albums were just very boring. They're very, not boring necessarily the content, just like a jewel case with a silver.
Yes.
They were like, where was that like 1970s album cover feel? Why can't it be deeper? Why can't the whole experience be of the artists? Why can't there be a theme and all the things? So I wanted it to be like a physical thing that people could, a CD, again, hold and look through, and there's photos, and I want to read the special thanks, and who does he know? And so I think if
do they thank God? Do they? That's all I always check. Do they thank God?
God, I wish I could go back and edit those special thanks now.
And take God out. Take some of the people out. That's hilarious.
But no, if that was part of it, then I definitely that was.
And you helped make the album cool again. Absolutely. I don't know when it became uncool to love on you, but I'm loving on you right now. I think that was a good thing, and I know. Listen, I know it's a little annoying to compliment Harmful If Swallowed, but that's the album. That I don't think that's annoying at all.
Okay.
It's just so long ago.
It's my baby. I changed changed everything.
Okay. I just felt that one time I talked to you and I was quoting that album because that's the one, I got Retaliation and all that stuff, but that was the one that I was obsessed with, and then I stopped listening to other people's albums because it would influence me too much, that sort of thing. So I didn't stop paying attention. Bill Burr's one of my favorites. Never heard his album. Right. Never seen his specials. You know what I mean? So anyway, you doing the colleges, what was I saying? People come out more. What the fuck was I saying? It doesn't matter.
We were.
D'Elia, Chris D'Elia. Chris D'Elia came on the show, and we were talking about him and him being an ambassador of silly. And me, like I was saying with Filthy Cosby.
Is that what he calls himself, the ambassador of silly?
No, I've never.
Is that like King of Pop or something?
Yes, it is. I've never said that before.
Ever called himself the ambassador? That'd be rich.
It's his new album. It's his new book.
At least go with Lieutenant. You're still kind of
Lieutenant Silly.
Ambassador.
We were talking at length about how comics, in particular, resent comedians like you and Chris in a certain way as well, certainly, who develop a new way of being funny. Right. Meaning, and I think you got it from Regan a little bit, I think you'd admit, don't float above me while I'm drowning in the abyss. That's synonym humor. You know what I mean? That Regan, I'm not saying he made it up,
right,
but it was in that school. I remember being like, this is good. Gaffigan does that as well. It became about language. You do that. But then there are other times when it's just like, it's movement, it's pace, it's the music of the audience and the performer pinging off each other. Sure. You know what I mean? And people don't like it because they can't do it. They don't understand it. It feels like a cheat code. You understand?
Sure.
And you're talking to somebody who does this. I do this professionally.
Right.
I try and be present with the crowd, engage them, find the code that's going to make them respond.
Yes.
And sometimes it's garbage. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's pure silliness. It's pure presence. It's pure goofiness. It doesn't matter. And then you turn that into an enterprise. And then when suddenly people go like, this motherfucker's selling out, I don't mean that, selling out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Look at him tearing down the beads and look at him kicking in doors and your punch sound and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
Fuck this guy. We understand, Stephen Wright. There's the joke. You could text that to someone and they'd laugh. Where do I laugh with this? But it really feels like a type of alchemy that threatens people. And I think D'Elia did it, and I think you did it, and I think it's a valuable thing for people to study.
Being at the epicenter of that, what I can say is people want to always focus on that very portion of it, and that exists, of course, the animosity. But in that same exact moment, I'm being reached out to by, I'm not going to go into name-dropping mode, but like the greats.
Yes.
The greats.
Well, we got to get to Steve Martin.
So, I mean, a couple of them like Steve Martin, but great comics that I didn't have a relationship with, or people like Lauren Michaels would reach out, not only want me on the show, but like, I mean, just within that time of backlash or whatever people want to call it, and some of it pretty rough, pretty like beyond just we're gonna put you through the spanking machine.
Yeah.
We're gonna turn the machine off while you're in it, to where I'm like, hello, is anybody out there? Can I come out? Was like a greeting, almost like an alma mater of these other people coming forward and saying, whatever. I appreciate what you do.
That sounds like your dad and your mom all over again.
Well, it was that, and I got to hang with a couple like Cosby, or I got to hang with Steve Martin, and they broke it down with me in a way that like fellow comics might be kind of poo-pooing on it. These guys were telling me exactly what I'd done right.
Yes, and
they were pointing out parts of performance that were that they thought that took a lot of time to get that ease of movement. That's not
what
easy.
I'm saying. So you made it from nowhere. Now, look, you want to talk about essence theft, and I don't give a fuck. I go to the Laugh Factory, I'll see 7 Danes and me. They're all wearing tight T-shirts, and they suck. But they commit. Not all of them suck. I'm talking about like a couple of them will suck. They commit, and they do their hair. These are stupid little things, and they do their hair, and they're muscly in a way that makes me uncomfortable. No, I'm not saying you do your hair, but I see an effort. Yeah. And anyway, I'm just saying the essence stuff goes way, way deep.
It's flattering. I love it. I really do now. There was definitely a period where it was a little bit more confusing to have that, but I can look now and just be like, once in a while I see it happening right in front of me, and I will kind of be like, wow, I've been around 23 years. I've been around long enough to where it's like I have a style.
Yeah,
I have a thing.
There was a guy in New York that performed at the Boston that I called Dane Cook. I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, those are some of my favorites. Sometimes my friends will call and say, this guy, they call him, and it's like some play of me. But but the thing that's I think been my favorite to come out of that time of like where it was there's the hills and the valleys, is that I have formed some incredible relationships with the generation ahead. The generations of comedy ahead of my group graduating class.
Yeah.
I've worked with Mel Brooks. I'm friends with Jerry Lewis. Like, I've spoken with Richard Lewis, and like the guys that I grew up, just like they're my gods.
Yeah.
And the fact that they give me a little bit of their life, and sometimes more, I can't really tell you in words. And then like there's a whole crop of guys the last couple of years, the young kids, some of them 17, 18, 19, and the fact that I can sit with them, tell them things like you got to incorporate, like telling them, I don't give a lot of comedy advice. I don't really like that so much. Like, this is how you do or be, because you got to find that, and it takes a long time to find your voice. But all the offstage stuff that I can identify, that like, hey, you might come into this. This is the kind of, just letting you know. So yeah, I may still have this weird rift or whatever with some comics that are in and around my time, but I don't think even they really know what that is about.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them you've probably sat with, and I think that when you get into the nuts and bolts of it, I honestly don't think they really know why they're as upset as they are, outside of maybe it's just like a little bit of like, man, did he got enough? Did he have to get more?
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I think people. I'm
guessing
it became cool to not like you. That's true.
Yeah, I did it for a while. It was a blast.
And also, you did, in your creation of this other type of comedy that we're kind of discussing, it did, some knuckleheads got in through that door as well. I'm not talking about well-known people. I'm talking about people that shouldn't necessarily be doing comedy. We're like, oh, look at this guy. He has this hack to get into comedy, and they didn't do the work. But you did do the work. You can write a joke, and you learn performance.
Right.
And then
I
you
see what you're
got
saying.
there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's find those guys.
What time?
Let's start naming names, Pete.
What time is the show at the Laugh Factory tonight? Let's talk about Steve Martin. When I saw you, you had sat down with him, and he signed. I'm going to brag for you. He signed his book, Born Standing Up, which everybody's read. He signed it to the only person. I'm paraphrasing, to the only person that will understand this. He signed that to you.
Yes.
Is that about right?
He did. He actually sent me 2 copies of it because one had gotten lost, and then I'd gotten the word that that he'd sent it, and I wrote back. I said, I never got a copy of a book by Steve Martin. And then so he sent another one, and then the first one came. So the second one said, "You're the only person who would understand all of this."
Yeah.
And that's true. And then
you sent him back.
That is true. Except, you know what part I didn't understand? He really had a real disdain in his later years for stand-up. And I've always had it's glamorous to me to this day. I love stand-up comedy, and he really didn't.
Can I say I had a weird...
But just quickly.
Yes,
so
the
first book then came after, and he wrote... Stop doing my jokes. No, I'm kidding. He wrote something really sweet. I can't remember exactly what it is. I don't want to butcher it, but it was just both of that same thing.
Good,
encouraging,
and kind.
Yep.
I think I have a theory on why Steve Martin isn't you and didn't keep performing, is that I believe that his persona didn't allow for him to keep performing. Going back to what we were saying about that Patrice thing.
I thought he was like the life of the party, and he could just kind of do anything up there. And
I don't think so.
Really?
Not at all. Have you seen, did you get his box set of his TV appearances?
Mm-mm.
I actually don't recommend it.
Okay.
Because Let's Get Small is my favorite comedy album, and all 3 of those. I can put them on shuffle. It doesn't matter which album they're on. I just love those albums. If you watch, there's an HBO special of him taping that here in Los Angeles, and he looks, and this is a hero of mine, so it's not with pleasure that I say this, he looks so done with the act, and anytime he deviated or did something that wasn't on the albums, it became a spectacle. It wasn't a guy... You said when you step on stage, you're more restricted. I believe he went on stage and he was more restricted. And I believe the book reflects as such, that he went up and he was babysitting. They just wanted him to say Grandpa bought a rubber. Right. They just wanted him to do King Tut. And like if he did, it was like a pop band, and if he did a new bit, people, listen to the privilege that we're in. People want to hear your new shit.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
No one wanted to hear Steve Martin's new shit. Fucking get out of the way. We bought the album. I'm on peyote. Do your thing, white suit. And you're so far away, I can't even tell if it's really you. I'm just going to scream whenever I want.
You know what? And it seems to me like, because he loves those... he loves subtlety so much. He loves that kind of way deadpan, like when he's on Letterman's and stuff. And, you know...
so funny.
So, yeah, maybe to him it just was the furthest point... from the original voice that he wanted to be.
So you met with him where?
I met with him at a little restaurant over in Beverly Hills. I asked him if I could take him to dinner or something. And he invited me to a lunch. And so
downgrade.
So
pump the brakes, Dad Coke.
And so we met over there. And he's you've probably heard he's just a very serious guy, and he's definitely he is he's kind of a quiet man, and
he said he was Yoda-ish.
Yes, I felt that from him. But again, I'm meeting somebody my whole life. I had this idea of like, what would it be? Not like Rupert Pupkin, like I pictured sitting and talking to him.
Sure.
But like, if I were to meet him, or is it going to be, we're swapping stories or, but no, I found him to be, kind of introverted. I also can still be that way. I am not, it's not an uncomfortable thing anymore, but I know it's in there still. So if it was one of those days, then we probably could have had a very quiet lunch. And been oddly comfortable with that, because I could tell he was comfortable in not being whatever I'd anticipated, and I believe vice versa.
Yeah.
But what came out of it was just a really, kind of like this, just no pauses. In a nice banter back and forth.
That's
with a little
huge.
With a little bit of talk of industry, to where he'd asked me. He said, "You really love it, don't you?" meaning like the bigness and the performance. And I kind of I was like, yeah, like I got excited. And he goes, yeah, I never felt that.
Yeah.
And he meant it. And it was like, ugh. So I knew it wasn't going to be a conversation where we're like talking about high talent and out to, it was going to be just, a little bit more reflective of, what else is in your life. He loves art, so we talked a little bit more about, because I bought my first home at the time. So we were talking about things that were more kind of chummy and real life stuff, and very little bit about.
Did you ask him? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I have a billion questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you ask him about comedy? Like why he kind of... I know he talked about it in the book a little bit, but did you...
A little bit, but you know what? I really respected his... I just got a feeling that it was like... that's not what kind of defines him now in his life. And if he chose to ask me some questions, or he wanted to say, by the way, this is something I remember. How do you deal with this? I think that he was much more interested. I think at one point we talked about a script that I was writing. That I said, I'm writing something with you in mind, and he was more interested maybe in what is that about, and kind of talking about something that was more present. I don't think he's
not living in the past.
No. There's no glory days.
There's a great Steve Martin. He was in the car, he said, and he had the Sirius radio on, and it was the Comedy Channel came on, and he heard a bit from a young man, and he was like, "This is pretty funny." And then the DJ said it was him. He looked on the thing, and it said it was Steve Martin. He just has no memory of it. I always look.
He also killed a family in Montana, 1978.
With arrows through the head, actually. It was very disturbing.
That's his calling card.
I think it was Steve Martin. Shut up, rookie. Now, let's see. that was me doing. Let's
you know what I'm gonna buy you a little gift, by the way. You guys are getting a little gift. I'm sending you over a Dyson fan after this.
We can turn this on.
Oh my God.
I have a Dyson fan. Those are nice.
Yeah, those great.
Well, how do those work?
I don't know. I just stare at it like, wow, how are you doing this?
The world is magic.
It's magic.
What kind of soap do you use?
Soap?
Yeah.
I don't know, like some kind of soft soap. I'm not sure. It's not the old-fashioned bar. Like I'm not using.
Oh, you're using a body wash.
Yeah, it's like a body wash.
So you're not a jerk. I'm a jerk. I buy like a fancy body wash. I'm interested in what people
spend.
Is
it a fancy, like an Olay? Are you saying?
Is it like
L'Occitane?
L'Occitane.
What?
Yeah, I get compliments on the aroma, Dane.
You get compliments?
You're walking around smelling like the same thing as the cashier who sold it to you. How you Philistine?
How did we get here, Pete?
That was a non sequitur. For no reason.
That was a non-interesting.
I find it very interesting.
Soap?
That you don't use a premium soap.
I believe that you thought you wrote that down.
No, look in that wall. It says soap. First question. Those are the random questions you can ask at any moment.
Notes hidden around this room.
Yeah. Have you ever been in a fight? What's the last thing you Googled? Do you want to fake laugh with me until it turns into a real laugh?
Oh my gosh.
What do you think about before you fall asleep? Look, there are more important things.
So many things.
I want to did you said that is this true? I'm gonna throw some Dane.
Is this part of the show?
Yes, this is on the show.
It's time for Is This True?
No, most guests don't have lore surrounding them. I'm gonna throw some Dane lore at you.
Oh boy.
You before you had any TV credits were making $20,000 to college.
True.
Fuck you, man. How did you do that? No, I'm happy for you. That's great. But I remember when I started doing colleges, I was like, I don't have any credits. I don't know what I'm doing. And people were like, Dane generated interest. College kids loved him. They wanted him to come back.
Uh-huh.
And you started pulling in $20,000 in the 80s, 90s, 90s?
Late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yes.
Of course, not the 80s.
Okay, but can I just say that what helped that to come to fruition was, Sandler had been touring colleges even when he was on SNL.
I was doing a bit of touring.
And he was... Pete likes himself, and that's what I like about Pete. As long as Pete's happy, everyone's happy.
Big fan. I'm a big fan.
I have all my album.
God, that was fast. I have all my album. That was good. Look, I don't have all.
Wait a second. So
yeah, Adam Sandler.
So Sandler was just cleaning up at the colleges, and then he kind of stopped. He was not doing, and so there was a void.
How did you know there was a void?
Because everywhere I went to do a show for next to nothing was like, we're getting Sandler, or we had Sandler, or, you know, they still wanted that Sandler show. So I remember feeling at the time like, hey, you know what? My show's pretty excitable, high energy. So I just started sending out fucking tapes to anybody and everybody and saying I probably had more time than I did.
Yeah.
And
you mean you had to do an hour? You didn't have an hour yet?
No, not like a real hour. No,
Yeah.
No, I had like I can fake it till I make it kind of hour.
Right.
But I remember, so I did a few schools, and they were larger schools in New England, and then the word just got out. It basically was like it was not because I probably deserved a certain amount of money. It was literally just these schools have money to throw at someone.
Yes.
Everybody knew how much they were throwing at Sandler.
Yeah.
So they had no choice when they needed entertainment that we could ask for a slightly higher bump because there was already word of mouth through the New England schools.
You have to spend your budget. You have to.
That's what it was. They had to spend their budget, and I was also a big. Another thing, looking back, where are things that helped me? The power of no and saying no to things, and when people hear you're the kind of guy that doesn't just take everything that comes. People are really interested in that. Yes.
I love that. It's a turn on.
So I knew when to say, like, you know what? Say no to this region, and once they get word that I'm only performing in this region, they're going to be like, can he please come here? Because we're hearing great things from the students and the faculty and staff from that show. So it just kind of, it got to that point.
Yeah. Were you doing a real college-y act? You know what I mean?
I was doing what I felt like was a club act with a little bit more of the, so you guys partying or drinking, or like some of the drinking material came from what I saw at the schools. But for the most part, no, it was like the act that I honed in Boston just with I was a kid. I was a college kid. So, one of my favorite stories was I walked into a college. I was 24 years old, and I was looking for where I was going to be performing. I remember like a teacher, somebody in charge, came up to me and kind of said with self-importance, like, "Oh, it's that way. You're looking for the show?" And I said, "I am the show." And I loved it. I was like, I'm 24 and I'm performing for like...
I am the show.
Yeah, it was great. It was great until they got my name wrong on the check, and it was Dance Cook. But that's a whole other story.
They did not write dance.
Oh, yeah, I got all that.
That was the Mad Magazine Dance Cook.
So it was cool. Like, there was a good chunk of time when I was just out there and doing it as... just a comedian without any preconceived idea. I was literally walking into 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people who didn't really know me.
Yeah. And I love that because a lot of people in this industry will say, I would be doing that if I had a credit, or if I had a manager, if I had an agent, or all these things in the way.
Yeah.
And you, perpetual motion machine.
Yeah, I had little things. I had like a premium blender. I had like little things that started to pop in around that time, and that just fortified what I a bit of the momentum that I feel like I had just kind of saw what Sandler was doing in the gap that was not there, and was like, let me just try to fill that.
Yeah.
I was very lucky, actually, because if he stayed on the road, then that money probably would have gone to getting Sandler.
And that was a big shift, wasn't it? Was it like less money, and then that was probably big money?
Yes.
For you.
Yeah.
I mean, like scraping by to... Or maybe not scraping by.
I went... it was definitely like lean years up until the last, like 97 or 98, and then that started to happen. But everything before that was terrifying.
I'm so happy to hear that, Dane. Lord, is true. That one inspired me as I drove around. My college rate is still a lot lower than that.
Yeah. Let's talk... let's talk soon, man. You got some things popping.
I gotta go. Oh, okay. Andrew, we got to talk about girls now.
What?
Unfortunately, I have to go at 2, which sucks, because I feel like I could talk to you forever, and we have to cover sex and God. We've kind of covered comedy pretty good. Sex meaning relationships.
Yes.
It sounds to me, from what I've seen of your stand-up, that you've had your heart broken a lot.
I wouldn't say heartbroken, but I've definitely had tumultuous kind of relationships. Yeah.
I feel like I've seen you performing sad or hurt.
If you're talking about, again, over like, not in the last couple of years so much, but prior to that.
Yeah, it's been years.
Yeah, that was definitely, there was definitely right around, 07, 08, 09, that it was tough.
Well, when we're talking about being present and being a real person and trusting people and and sharing yourself and boundaries and all that sort of stuff. Are you a single man now?
No.
Oh, you have a
6-month relationship.
A 6-month relationship,
and a great one. Yeah, really happy.
You salty dog.
Yeah.
You Cape Cod potato chip. I've never said that before.
I know, you shouldn't.
Well, tell me everything, because I'm fascinated with this idea of, first of all, we need love. We're better with love.
Right.
We agree with that. Secondly, at your level, people know you. Mm-hmm. And I don't just mean know who you are. I'm not talking about getting recognized. They know what you're about to a certain extent.
Sure.
We're kind of past going out for coffee. Or I'm going to say you're past going out for coffee. How did you meet this person? How did it start to flourish?
I don't, some things I keep some things
private.
Very private, especially too because, as comics, we blend a lot of eras into our comedy sometimes to get a point. We all have that thing where there's two things I notice. Well, one thing everybody notices about comics where it's like, a couple of weeks ago, I'm hanging out with my buddy. It was actually 14 years ago. And of course, we changed the time.
Or I just broke up with somebody.
And then I noticed something very recently that I have the weirdest observation sometimes. Whenever comics are talking to regular people about what it is to be a comic, we always compare ourselves in the story by making the comedian a plumber.
Tell me what you mean.
In other words, we go like, it's like, hey, say something funny. If you knew a plumber, then you wouldn't say to him like, hey, lay some copper tubing down. We love to use plumber analogy.
I have some. Mine is always barber, I think. I can't remember what mine is.
It's once you realize it,
you look for a plumber.
Yeah, whatever. If a comic's on a Tonight Show or something, and they go out there, be like, it's like saying to like a plumber. We always go plumber. Comics go plumber. You heard it here first, folks.
Comics go home. Comics come home.
What kind of shampoo do you use?
I use an organic whole food shampoo. It's very important. It's a B vitamin complex.
It's a quarter magma, actually, melted from the volcanoes of
a placenta.
The girl that I'm with, the girl that I'm with now is tremendous. She is.
I'm sorry.
She is. She is what I really love about my relationship now is it's a person that accepts and understands me for everything that I am. I know that sounds like really broad, but the truth is, I was always in like a certain. It seemed like I was always in a certain era with a relationship. My first serious relationship in 1999, it was like I'm starting to become somebody, and all the weird things that goes along with that, and her seeing me change, and suddenly I'm like, somebody knew me at the grocery store today, and all that the ego and things that go along with that for the first time being somebody after years of feeling like like we talked about, still that kid from school.
Yeah.
And then I had a relationship right around when my mom got sick, and that was my second really like long term. This girl had no sympathy in her for like I'm dealing with extraordinary
grief,
difficult circumstances, and like I'm in it for years with this person going like, oh, I'm not getting anything. I'm also having this stuff happen. I'm giving, and protecting and not getting any of it like myself. So it was like I never had a relationship that I think either that was consistently like, hey, we can talk day to day about what's happening, and I have that now, and she has that with me. So that's. She's like my best buddy. I've never said that about a girl.
That's great.
Yeah, like it's always been, it's my girlfriend, this is my chick.
But also good boning?
If you want to hear about the sex, my next album will be in stores.
It's a double album.
It's a
lot of sex.
It's a healthy relationship.
You okay? I just like that so much. I like that answer. I'm just because
we have sex on Monday nights, Pete. Who does that?
That's our off night.
Nobody has sex on Monday nights. That's for Dateline.
Here's another thing I'm interested in. This feels a little awkward now because you're in this good relationship, but I know you've tasted the buffet of sex. I'm saying you've been this guy. Mm-hmm. You said on stage, I've heard you say on stage, I'm a busy guy, so I have a lot of three-ways. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, threesomes. Three-ways are phone conversations. I also have those sometimes to expedite business.
I say three-way.
I actually have three-way phone sex calls. That's how busy I am. I didn't have time to get together with these girls.
You're calling two 900 numbers.
I got two calling in at
once. Have a three-way. That's good. You should.
And what are you wearing?
Hold, please. Hold on 1 second. Tell me. So I'm just saying. Oh, that's my Drive jacket. I ordered a Drive jacket. Here.
Drive, the movie Drive?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the black one.
Yeah, you ordered that jacket?
Is it mine?
Yeah.
Let's see it.
We're gonna talk about how you go from three-ways to your girlfriend.
Here's Pete asking me what I'm doing with my money. He's buying memorabilia to wear. Okay, let's see it.
Yeah, come on.
All right.
That's cool. I hope it fits. It's not going to fit.
I don't think that's going to fit. Go ahead, put that on.
It's not going to fit.
Go ahead, Pete.
I can't put it on. This is like Farley.
Go ahead. Let's see.
Oh, it fits.
Does it fit?
You know what?
Oh, that looks great.
I think that fits.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Daddy Gosling. I don't know if it can zip.
No, it zips. Look at it.
Holy shit.
How does it make you feel, Pete, when you put that How do you feel?
It makes me feel like I'd like to pick you up from a non-specified burglary and take you on a car ride that takes place entirely in the car.
And then murder me in a motel room?
Yeah, with my
As the door gently closes on its own? Who closed that door? What bothered me about that scene?
That's insane. Wait, who'd he kill in a motel room?
Zed. I don't know.
That's Pulp Fiction.
I know. Zed's
Sorry.
dead, baby.
So what I'm trying to get at is you go from...
How much did that cost?
I will never tell you on the air. It was $250. I asked Conan O'Brien. Ryan Gosling gave him this jacket, and I first tried to get it from Conan O'Brien. I said,
okay.
Give me that jacket. And now I just made it worse. I'm spending $250 on jackets, but first, don't worry, I'm still a regular person.
He drilled me. He came at me from all angles, and then he has the jacket from Drive delivered during our interview and has to open it and put it on to show me what he got with his money.
And I didn't even write the check. My business manager. I'm just kidding. I bought it myself.
Guess who made it weird?
Just me? Every day. What I'm wondering is you go from buffet sex, threesomes.
Okay, well, I didn't even know. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Tasting the array.
In other words, you're saying I went from, just dry land and then suddenly it was a bevy.
Yes. So now you're having interesting sex and now you're dating somebody.
Yes, but I had a nice long run where I was... I enjoyed being a single man.
Out of your
system? Sometimes I enjoyed not being a single man, but that'll all be in the book.
You're writing a book?
I'm attempting to write a book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Something's cooking?
I'm not even going to... I wanted that to sit... I wanted everybody listening to go, what just happened to the sound levels on... What? It feels like the air just got sucked out of my...
But you know what they couldn't hear? Your undeniable smile. You smiled at that. You really were grinning. So,
what are you getting at, Pete?
I'm getting at it. What I want to know is how...
You want names of women that I bedded.
No.
And you'll never know these names.
Never at all. Never, not once. What I want to know is how atypical... I was just going to say, I'll tell you what I paid for the jacket. I already told you. An atypical person, meaning a person kind of off the grid, does something that's for the grid.
Okay, wait a second. Hold on. Are we talking about spies?
You are rich, famous, successful, well-known... Boning two girls at once.
I'm not boning two girls at once. I had that experience for a while in my life.
And now you're going to Panera with your girlfriend. No, and look, I'm not judging Panera. I want to know how you go from the highway to the rural roads of a traditional relationship and find love and find a normal person who doesn't see you.
Oh, it's easy because yes. The others, from my side, I've always been, the show... The show is the show. The show doesn't follow me home. The show is not like a posse of people that come with me after. There's not like a weird after party that then I go home. I like being home. I'm pretty much like I'm kind of like a homebody, I guess you could say.
Yes.
So that stuff's easy for me. I didn't have to downshift to like, oh, I'm with a square now. I gotta like.
I'm with a square.
Yeah, no, not at all. So it was easy. It was just like finding somebody who also had those same kind of interests of like, hey, part of my life is extraordinary and like.
Is part of her life extraordinary?
Well, she's not an entertainer. She's not, but she's been in and around it, so she's aware of it.
Yes.
But it doesn't do her any. She's not interested in any way of being a headlining performer somewhere, doing that.
That's something that these relationships that interest me so much. That's something they have in common. It's somebody that their hair isn't necessarily blown back by what it is you do.
Yes,
they respect it and they enjoy it. They're not necessarily fangirling you.
Right? No.
And also, I'm right there with you. I love PJs and ice cream and staying in as much as I go out. That's what we do for work. It's great to stay in, and you're looking for that excuse to hole up and just kind of calm down a little bit.
Yeah, no, I like entertaining as well. So it's like we have people over, or we will host a game night or things like that.
Yeah,
and we like it real easy. That's the thing. Also, it's
like Sunday morning.
I love your asides. You should work at Boston Market because you got great asides.
Mashed potatoes made from
Mac
powder.
and cheese, please.
Yes, double. I'll double it for you, no charge.
Home-style gravy.
We knew when it was called Boston chicken.
Hey, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Look at us. We go way back. Way back machine. So yeah, no. So again, I know this is probably the most kind of lame part of the conversation because there's not a lot to it. We're both really happy. I can definitely say it's the first relationship that I've had to where I feel like all that matters is like what we accomplished kind of with each other in the moment. It's not about my goals and future career stuff. She's supportive. She gets it. She knows I'm tenacious and love it. But she also realizes that I'm actually just a regular guy, and she saw that because we were friends for a long time before we actually became lovers, which was even better. Yeah, we were like friends. We got to know each other pretty much as friends before we consummated.
So now you have. So now that's great. That's what we're looking for.
Right.
The closeness, and she understands. You're going on a...
I remember the first moment my penis entered her, and I just whispered, "Bye-bye, friend." And then as I took it out, I said, "Hello, lover."
I find "bye-bye, friend" is terrifying.
Bye, friend.
You know a bit of yours I love is "I'm going to fuck that baby." You know that bit?
Yes.
I love that bit.
I love when you just tell a punchline of mine.
It doesn't... I didn't want to ruin the whole bit.
You did.
Now they just think you're going to fuck a baby.
It's my big closing bit.
Is it?
That's the only thing I would have you cut out.
Is that right?
Yeah, whatever.
Cut it.
No. It doesn't matter.
No, it's fine.
Go ahead. Keep it. I'm not hiding anything here.
All right. Well, love is good. Let's talk about God. And if God doesn't do us well, we'll go back to fucking.
Okay.
I feel like maybe either you didn't want to talk about it or you didn't really get into it, the idea of spiritual energy, giving your energy to the hills and that sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
If that relates to your answer, that's great. It doesn't have to. You were raised a Catholic?
Yes.
Do you love the Lord now?
I'm not a practicing Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a person of faith, but I'm a little bit more open to the idea that not all the stories that we hear in the Bible. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, sometimes I'm very confused. Now, I'm also a person that I'm really turned on by science, and I love tech. And so the more I've learned about that and kind of expanded my mind there, there's way more questions about like origins of religion. That being said, I have a strong faith, but I mix it with science. Energy's forever. I believe that we're always existing in some form. And
do you believe your consciousness exists in some form?
How so?
Is your dad and mom, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Are
you're
they
not.
Still around? Are you talking to them?
I still feel them around me. Yeah, I definitely...
Safe place. No weird answers.
Yeah, no. I that's the point of the show, right? You gotta make it a little weird.
Yeah.
No, it's... let me think how I can make it weird. Sometimes I have sex with my mom's ghost. I made it weird. No.
The ghost of Freud loves that.
I feel like there is definitely a pulse of positive energy around me that in times when I still, and it happens to all of us, I feel like, man, I'm getting wailed on by the universe here. I may not be hearing the verbal words of my mother and father anymore, but So that's something speaks to me from within.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use the force, Luke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely feel their presence.
So, okay. So when it comes to do you fear death?
No. No. I don't think a lot about death, but I know that, like, it may sound silly, but, like, sometimes you're in a plane and it's very turbulent.
It's
and
always
I've always,
on a plane.
Yeah, and I've always thought, like, all right, if it happens, like, I don't get overwhelmed by that.
Is that right?
By that thought, yeah.
So the plane is turbulent, and your thought is...
Yeah, and I've been in some pretty harrowing, landings, and a couple of, like, small planes that, like, are getting whipped around up in when you go to do the comedy. Aspen or something like that, and it's like, and you hear, a plane crashed yesterday, and we're going to take the same route. We're landing. But no, I don't get overwhelmed by the.
That's how they navigate. Take a left at the last crash. Just follow the crashes.
The beacons are the fires of the other planes.
So you're not worried. You're not worried about specifically any sort of judgment. Are you looking forward to some sort of understanding of what the universe is? Meaning some sort of trippy, I'm out of my body now, and I absorb the knowledge of the universe.
Man, I don't think too much about this. I don't really. I don't think I really go there in terms of, like, thinking of, is it going to be like a video game? Is there another level? Is there another? I just kind of feel like I understand there's a feeling of there's something more, but too small to really expound upon that.
Dogs trying to understand the internet.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah.
What about the world being a simulation? Do you ever feel that way?
Sometimes. I'm really interested. I read a thing on Google Plus about these two scientists, and I'm not even going to try to say their names, but they're basically saying that we're in a matrix, and that this is, like, all a program that we we chose. Sometimes I can understand that, because I can actually look at my life and say there are certain things that are just so oddly, like, to
serendipitous,
just so almost like what are the? I would like to know the odds of, like, having this level of success in this same year that, like, both my parents are going to be get cancer, and, like, if you believe anything of the pendulum swings, okay, it definitely did. If it went this far into good and success, it went that far into hardcore and scary. So there's definitely something to be said of, like, is this all part of a program?
Yeah, that hypothesis, if I remember reading that as well, if I'm remembering correctly, that we're it basically is the Matrix, that in the future they want to simulate everything, including what life was like now. There's a chance that we are in that program.
Yeah, I just had a great, Rick Overton. Yeah. I love Rick. And he
gave one of the best God answers on this podcast ever.
I believe it, because we actually got into a bit of this on his, and we were talking, I was telling him about the next stage of, like, video game evolution.
Yes.
I'm a big gamer, and these new systems are coming out at the end of the year, and I was like, remember how you felt this year? Because I truly think that when these new systems come out and the power that they actually have now, like 7 years later since the last, systems came out, I think it's going to be a defining, generation-changing moment, because I think that this is going to be the first generation that's going to come up living in some kind of, like, I was describing, like, they're so amazing, incredibly enhanced, and so the programming and the amount of color, and it's just so lifelike, and being on 24/7, and as broadband and things get faster and more capable of kind of being always on, that these new games they're talking about are going to be like, worlds that like World of Warcraft or something like that. But imagine that, but now
sandbox.
Like completely, probably a never-ending sandbox, or will continue. Like new servers are added. Now it's 50,000 miles further or whatever. Like you'll never be able to journey the distance.
Right.
Whatever that means.
No, I know exactly what you mean. When you get Grand Theft Auto and you're like, there's another town.
Yes.
And they'll but you won't be able to get to that another town before they make the next one.
So you imagine, and this is just of our generation and of the next thing that's coming that's going to be incredibly dynamic, that there's going to be people that are rushing to get home to live.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I got to get home.
So I can plug in. I believe
truly alive. Not just like I play a game now and it kind of makes me feel like, oh, I'm playing multiple, and it's competitive alive.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see people that kind of they're unhappy in their real skin, and they will be something more. So if that's coming now,
imagine
50 years from now, are we going to be like, it's now a helmet, and I am fed intravenously, I get nutrition, I go in for a week, I'm game jumping for a week. You won't see.
You will, and you have a job.
within the game.
In the game.
Yeah, like these
you get
these
paid.
Chinese game players are gold miners. There's actually gamers in these World of Warcraft, and they're hired and they live and they mine the gold. And there was actually a big article about how they've basically just like all the gold in the games are already being mined and taken by these Chinese entities, and then they're selling them on eBay. So it's real. It's a real money making business.
Yeah.
So you think that okay, maybe more of that is going to take place.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is. It's really. It's almost too much to even let yourself spiral into, but.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm fascinated.
Me
so
too.
What will it be in 100 years?
Yeah.
Are we going to be existing in some...
But here, in 100 years, is that when we created this? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Right.
Like, one of the goals of my
we
life...
unplug from it and we're like...
Yes. We are being
The end of the
fed
game is when
intravenously.
you discover that
Yeah.
you can create the game.
But what's weird about movies like The Matrix...
And then you get on the necromancer and you...
Good pull. Good pull. I played that video game. That was not a good game.
And you go to see the Oracle.
Yes. But the things about those things is all those movies and all these ideas are based on real ancient spiritual beliefs.
Right.
One of the goals of my life is to appreciate the world we're living in. Because I tell this to people in my meditating, and we'll get to that. I'd like to hear if you do anything like that, is I try and appreciate the world as if, what if I told you that we're actually in my apartment right now? You came to my apartment.
Okay.
And I gave you a helmet. And you're in this, and this is a simulation. And I've said this on the show before, but I love sharing the idea. If I told you this was a dream, you would be so fascinated with how real the water bottle felt. Look, it's splashing. I can hear it.
Yes.
But we should have that level of fascination for the real world. And I think that's one of the goals.
I felt that way when you put that drive jacket on.
That's worth the money.
I was like, I'm alive. God damn it, I'm alive. I said that to myself. That was my inner monologue.
Or a time traveler. If you were a time traveler and you came back to 2013, you'd be going around going like, look at these mics. That's so 2013.
Yes.
Look at what you're wearing. Look at those shoes. Just like if you went to the 70s. If we could have that for today, would be happier people. Do you meditate?
I don't, but I actually spoke to you about...
Oh, that's right. I emailed it to you. I'm sorry. I forgot.
No, I got the information. I just...
Yes.
I had a gig. I haven't been able to follow up, but I will.
I think you're going to dig it.
I've been looking for something like that for some time.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give it a shot.
Seinfeld.
Because I have tried
David.
meditation, but just on my own, you know,
Yes.
just like from things that I heard, or
Yeah.
you know, somebody might say, "Oh, give this a shot."
Yep.
And I got something out of it, but I really want to see if I can take it to a place of making it part of my nutrition.
Yeah, you can freestyle it to a certain extent. We're doing great. We're not running. I don't feel pressed for time at all. Here's a couple weird questions. You can skip this one. You told Al Del Benny when he moved to L.A.
This is like I feel like I'm testifying in court. You told Al Del Benny.
You said move to L.A. This is a weird one.
This is what I said, Al.
This is a weird one, and I'm quoting.
Okay.
So feel free to skip.
Yep.
Al.
Why would I skip?
I don't know.
Do people skip?
No. But sometimes I get a call a couple days later and they go, can you please take out that part where I said I fucked my mom as a ghost?
People really want to remove stuff?
It depends on who they are.
Okay.
The comedians I like the most tend to not.
Interesting.
Maybe we should take that out.
Yeah.
Okay. The question is, Al Del Benny was going to move from New York to Los Angeles.
Okay.
I was so interested in this. You said, Al, there are some things you're going to have to do when you get here.
Yeah.
Some of them you're going to like. Some of them you're not going to like. For the past 6-7 years, I've been speculating on what you meant by that.
That's interesting. I don't remember this conversation with Al.
The speculation was I was like, Al fixed his teeth. Dyes his hair. You know what I mean? I'm not betraying anybody.
Right.
I'm wondering if it was that sort of stuff. Like, get your shit together, exercise, get some nicer clothes, you weirdo. Because I want to hear that gross dirt.
I see. No. I think that again, Al and I went through a long period of time where we didn't talk. Al kind of, I don't know how much he told you, but Al had kind of checked out, and
Of comedy or life.
I just know we hadn't talked for a good period of time, and he just needed to do some things on his own. I'll say that. I'm not going to speak for Al, like he has obviously spoken for me many, many times with you.
Well, I've been interested.
I would be interested too. And this is like this is the stuff we all talk about and ask questions away from each other, because it is interesting to find out how the hell somebody got to wherever it was. It's fascinating, but. I don't think I meant it so much in terms of like you need to change your physicality, but I think that all right, I'll just say this. I think that Al is he's always struggled with being self-motivating. And I think that by saying to him at that time, I remember having these conversations and saying, Al, you're going to have to do things you don't like to do. And some of the things that you don't want to do are coming to the clubs that you don't want to be at, hanging out maybe around certain nights that you'd love to just do nothing. And again, cracking the whip. Al, start writing. He's such a talented guy. Al's a very talented. He's a great, imagination and so I think that it was really my saying to him, like, when you get here, when you finally decide, we're not just hanging. This is a place of business. And I think it was one of many talks I've had with Al where I'm saying, like, challenge yourself to do something that you're afraid to do, which is the work. And I hope I'm not overstepping. I know Al shared some things with you, but I think that he has always had a problem with facing the work. I think he knows how talented he is and the potential, and also good-looking guy. It kind of fits into the he fits into like all the things that you kind of want before somebody actually has like. But you got to be able to also fight for the things that you want, and people get out here and they get scared to do that.
But that's advice that it goes way past Al. That's why
it wasn't like a less than zero moment where I was like, you got to do the blow, you got to do the nose candy, you got to do things that you got to suck a dick in an alleyway, Al. And then you got to look up, and it's gonna be me. It's gonna be me. It's my dick. You're gonna join the Illuminati, Al. No. I think.
Have you been approached by the Illuminati?
It was. Yeah. I used their bathroom once, and I stayed for 6.5 months. No, I think that it was really saying, dude, you got to start doing things that are away from your, what is that?
Comfort zone.
Comfort zone.
Well, that's. I think that's valuable information. A lot of comics listen to this show, and when I hear you saying that, I know that'll inspire.
Yeah. Definitely not worth waiting 7 years to hear the answer to, but that is the. And let's lower those expectations.
This whole time, I thought I had had my teeth whitened. This whole time. Let's see. I want to make sure I got everything.
You should get your teeth whitened, though.
You son of a bitch. Why do you do 7-hour shows? I'm kidding.
That was one time.
I know. You have the record.
Never do it again. It's not a record. It's a Laugh Factory record. I love the way people just like, he broke a world record. No, some dude in England stood on stage for like 55 hours.
Yeah.
I broke a Laugh Factory record.
Oh, a Laugh Factory record.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not even a thing. As I said it, I was like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
I'm done with my notes. So let's end with some of my favorite things. Do you remember one of the hardest times you've laughed? It's one of my favorite questions.
Oh, man. One of the hardest times that I have laughed.
Ever. And if you think it won't make sense, I promise you it will. They always translate.
Man. The thing is, you're probably asking for, like, the thing that made me laugh the hardest.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the specific thing, but I remember sitting at Bennigan's with... the whole gang, man. Patrice's and, it was like Patrice and Burr and everybody that was in and around that time.
I don't want my Monte Cristo!
That was a horrible Bill Burr impersonation, by the way. That was maybe... Dead. That's more Bill.
Dane is not... He's a guy!
That's like...
I'm capturing his
That's like
essence.
Actually a good, bad Gilbert Godfrey. That's like 6 degrees.
I've interrupted your story, and I'm
no, please, no.
That's my Bill.
That's more like a parrot. That's not even.
And Gilbert Godfrey voiced a parrot.
That is actually, that is true.
So you're with Bill.
No. I just remember of those days sitting at Bennigan's and. The amount of laughter that I remember leaving there on certain nights, and that thing where you walk out the front door and go, oh my God, oh shit, dude. And it just really, those were some of the best laughs I've ever had. And also, I think they were the most important to me because that was my first gang. That was my first gang of people that really invited me to the party, accepted me after all those years of looking for it. I finally belonged somewhere with a motley crew of nobodies.
Yeah, a bunch
that
of
made
pirates.
each other laugh.
A bunch of pirates at Bennigan's.
They were like the Goonies or something like that. It was just sitting there and just trading ideas and jokes. And it was even before like comic brutality towards each other, the New York era of like how you got, it's like part of it, like smashing each other. It was even before that. It was just a real kind of genuine like novelty moment of like, oh, this is our job. We get to all hang here late at night.
Yes.
We don't have to wake up. And so those laughs were even more like, woohoo.
Carefree.
Yeah, the best.
It's a beautiful thing. It's actually a perfect little full circle because thinking of you in that absurd way in junior high with the panic attacks and then finding Patrice and Bill Burr at a Bennigan's, there's something really redemptive about that.
There was a lot of guys, some of them don't do it anymore, but we had a really great gang of comics in that came at the, the boom was over, the 80s, the big comedy boom was over, and we were the next guys. And we weren't going to make it like the same way the guys before us did because that era was over and we kind of knew it. Like, and we probably felt a little bummed about it in some ways at the time because it was like, oh man, I guess because that boom or whatever is kind of dwindling.
Yeah. There goes.
But it made it great because then it was our like our time. It was our
time.
gang. Because if we'd all come in 5 years sooner, I'm sure that all those incredible guys would have flicked us out of town one at a time. Who knows if we would have even had.
Isn't it weird how that works out?
Yeah.
These things show up when there's room for them.
Yes.
And you could have been a year off or a year late.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I was late. I'm glad that I started when I did because also all those rooms that were once really packed were still existing and trying to hang on. So there's a lot of there was a lot of places to perform and get better at a time when we were not good.
Yeah. How do you come down from those huge shows? That's my final question.
I don't.
You never do.
Because I never go. I'm a performer who, when I take the stage, I'm in it. But I can tell you something that almost the moment my foot steps off a stage, I'm off.
Really?
Yeah, I'm very content to just be a regular guy.
Like Patrice with the Buddha face.
My heart might still be racing. My head is already not thinking in terms of I'm the guy in the middle of the arena.
Yeah,
it's always been like that.
Yeah.
It's sadly, when I first started, I wanted it all the time.
Yeah.
It was like if I ever was going to chase highs, it was at the beginning of like, why can't I feel like this all the time?
Yeah.
But what I realized as years went by was, I'm not feeling badly when I get off stage. I'm just kind of like, and it's not numb. It's like. I can just kind of look at it and be like, I can see it and go, that was a good show. Like I can look at the schematics after and say like, hey, that felt great.
Yeah.
But let's have a dinner, a few people after, talk about whatever we want to talk about, and I love that. I like
great.
that.
Your gears aren't turning, going over every bit, what worked, what didn't work?
No, especially not once it's at the point of like I'm bringing it out,
Right.
and then it's just all fun. The gears turning is tonight when I walk into the improv and I like you don't know that I'm working and I say one thing and then I leave and I go home and I'm like the therapist. You don't know that once you leave he writes down a few little notes.
Oedipus.
And so that's when the my wheels are turning all day.
Yeah,
now,
I remember you said that at the improv. I was telling you that I had just done my hour, and you were talking about how you love all of it. The reward, the planting, and the harvesting.
Sure.
I don't know, man. You're an inspiring fella, and I'm glad we got you. I'm glad you're around.
Pete, I've been wanting to get here for a bit, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm sorry. I wouldn't wrap it up, but I gotta fly to our...
I could always come back someday, Pete.
I would love to have you back.
Who knows? Maybe there'll be a camera in the room, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay. I think I like it.
Let's put it up there. Let's go to Mom Walk and put that up there.
Momwalks.net. We have the guests at the end of the show say keep it crispy. It just means...
Yeah, I'm not doing that. All right, Pete. Everybody did it?
You and Chelsea.
See ya.
You and Chelsea.
Oh, wait, no, she did it.
She didn't do it.
I'll do it. It's only good if I was the only guy who didn't do it. And you know what? Because then that's lending itself to, you got to keep the haters hating. You always got to give them I've been talking about that on stage lately. It's like they're good for business.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they
keeps a little buzz out there.
Yeah. They keep things popping.
Dane didn't say keep it crispy.
I love it. I love those guys. They don't know. They're like walking billboards.
Your teacher, Moss, kept it very crispy, if that helps you at all. That's very crispy.
I would like to say it. So what do you want me to say?
Just say keep it crispy.
Hey, keep it crispy.
You really threw into it, and I like that. Thanks so much, man.
You, man.
It's great to see you.
All right.